Gurnee Mills, Circle West, Gurnee. So first of all, roll call, please.
Woodside.
Here.
Ross.
Here.
Garner.
Here.
O'Brien.
Present.
Thomas.
Present.
Thorstensen.
Here.
All are present. Pat?
So Brian, you need to
Oh,
swear
that's
in.
right.
Anyone intending to present any testimony tonight, please stand and we'll swear you in.
Okay, this is just on the, this is on the specific issue of carwise. This does not have anything to do with the pads or any other issues you might be here for.
And it might be just to answer questions. So you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
So we had a memo from our Economic Development Director, Ellen Dean. I'm going to kick over to her to walk through the proposal here, and then Representative from Carwise is here for any questions that the trustees may have.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Mayor. So the former Saturn dealership at the entrance to Gurnee Mills, 6460 Gurnee Mills Circle West, has been vacant since 2009, since Saturn ceased its operations, nationwide. Elite Motors is an owner-operator of two large independent pre-owned dealerships in Illinois. One is in Waukegan, one in Peoria. The one in Waukegan operates as Elite Motors, you may know it, and in Peoria it's Carwise. So Elite is currently under contract to purchase the Saturn dealership and with village assistance to renovate it and reopen it as Carwise Gurnee, to relocate the Waukegan dealership to this location. A little background on Elite, and then I'll let dealer principal Steve Podolny give you a much more detailed and nuanced description of the business and their plans. But Elite began operations about 20 years ago in 2004 in Mundelein. It outgrew that location and moved to its current location in Waukegan at 100 North Green Bay Road. And since then, since they've been there since 2017, and has expanded the footprint several times over the years to be able to accommodate a growing inventory of cars, which now stands at 300 to 400 on any given day with an average sales price of $30,000. The plans, the proposed renovations at the Saturn site, very visible location, entrance to Gurnee Mills. Elite has budgeted about $1.3 to $1.65 million for these renovations. It has been maintained well over the years. Obviously, it's like use to like use, so it's ready to go, but it will look vastly different when Elite Motors is done with it. Those renovations include repair and resealing of the pavement, landscape maintenance and new plantings, reskinning of ground signs, installation of new wall signage, repair and refurbishment of the building interior and exterior, and replacement of all lighting, both inside and outside, with new LED. Just a little bit of a glimpse. Elite has provided some renderings of what this might look like. You see the service areas on the left there and the customer lounge on the right. We were in it a couple months ago. This is very doable within that budget and with Elite's expertise to do it. So the agreement as proposed is consistent with the structure of others that we have discussed over the years. This is a performance-based, strictly performance-based agreement, no upfront money. This is new revenue to the village, of course. This property has been vacant for 15 years, so we treat all the revenue as new. This is a pretty simple structure, 50-50 rebate with a maximum of $1 million over 5 years, whichever comes first. Open by June of next year. I imagine Elite hopes to beat that by a little bit, but that's the requirement of the agreement, is that they open as the new dealership by June, and an operating commitment for 10 years. So the first rebate year would begin on the May 1st following the opening of the dealership, or if Elite chooses to elect a deferment of up to 12 months, they could do so in order to get get it open and have sales mature a bit. With that, I would like to ask the mayor if we have time to invite Steve Podolny to join us at the mic and maybe provide a little bit more background. This is new to a company that's new to us, but a site that's not. And I'd like to hear a little bit more about their plans if you feel we have time.
It'd be good, Steve, if you'd like to step up to the microphone and if you'd like just to add to what Ms. Dean said.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board and everybody that's here tonight, thank you for letting me speak. I greatly understand how decisions made in this room shape the future of the villages, any village, but obviously, I'm here to talk about this. So thank you for letting me speak. Just give you a quick story, background. As a kid, I'm a son of a single immigrant mom. My mom used to take me to Gurnee Mills from Rogers Park once a year on my birthday, right after it opens. I think in 92, I opened 91, so 92, 93. So every year I would look forward to coming to Gurnee Mills so I can choose a birthday present. And I would pass by Great America, and I would, we weren't able to go there at that time, but Gurnee and Gurnee Mills kind of is the tune in my head, and it's kind of ironic that today, I could potentially be a part of Gurnee Mills and the Gurnee community, and somebody could come to me to buy their first car or buy a car of their dreams, and it's very interesting how it all shaped out. So, I have a vision for this property. I've been looking at it, for a little bit over a year. It drew my attention because I just saw the potential, because I still come here and I brought my kid. I bring my son here now to go to Nike and a bunch of different stores, and my daughter. So every time I drive by here, and I'm thinking, this place may work for me. And as my time in Waukegan, the lease was running out, I think it was a perfect time to start putting this deal together. So, like I said, I have a vision. You guys see it over there. Our dealership in Peoria is also called Carwise, and my mission is possibly to turn it into maybe a multi-location independent brand like CarMax, or we could potentially go franchise, in other areas. But we operate like a franchise store. We work off a franchise GM financial statement. All our processes are based around how new cars are sold, and we're not just your regular mom and pop used car operation. If you guys have any questions about what we want to do and how we want to do it, I'm here to answer.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask the members of the board. So, thanks for your statement. Do you have anything else that you want to add, or?
No,
No?
I'm here to answer
Okay.
any questions. If you guys have any questions, pretty straightforward. Pictures speak loud. So
Right.
I took
Okay.
some time, to put my vision into images, and that's what we're gonna have it look like. It's not gonna be any other way. We're not there to keep it the way there it is. And it's ours. It's like it's my home. So I'm gonna make it how you guys would make your home, nice and welcoming.
So is there anybody from the public that would like to make a comment with regard to CarWise?
Yeah, he did. He was-
You can step up to the microphone, yes.
Sean Depke. I'm not against car dealerships. I worked for the Secretary of State for many years and did every car dealer in Lake County at one time I known or been in. This site has been an eyesore. I lived in Grammar Park for many years too. I have no problem with this gentleman putting a car dealership or anything up personally. My beef is you, the village, want to give him $1 million rebate. You guys must have a lot of money in your coffers, which I know you do, but this is taxpayers' money. Taxpayers' money. He shouldn't get it, other business coming in. Car dealers make lots of money, lots. And I don't know why the village insists on giving these car dealers massive amounts of rebates. And they've done it before, and they keep doing it. I don't know why, and I disagree with that part of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Anybody else from the public that would like to make a comment specifically about this issue?
Sir, I'll have to swear you in. Please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do. Steve Kalin, 997 Castlewood Court. My career was in the car business, and I agree with the gentleman was just talking. Perfect example is you gave a dealership 10 years, similar deal. They renewed it another 10 years when one franchise went away and they took on another one. And right when the agreement ended, the dealership moved out of Gurnee right over to city limits into Lake Villa. So there was no advantage to the village at all by doing that. And I'm talking about Ziegler, was Rosen before that. And now we got zero revenue from them. It's all going to Lake Villa, so it just makes no sense to me. So I disagree with it, being myself in the business myself for all these years. So I understand what the gentleman's after, but I totally disagree with it. Instead of doing that, maybe take the money and donate to our schools, maybe help our property taxes go down, if the village doesn't need it. That'd be another idea. Thank you.
Thanks. So at this time, I'll close the floor to further testimony, and just look to my right for, are there any comments or questions from the board? Karen Thorstensen, trustee Thorstensen.
Hi. Two questions for the owner. And first of all, I have to say, this is fantastic that you've had that wonderful experience growing up, familiar with Gurnee Mills, and wanting to come to us with your business. I couldn't be more thrilled. I'm sure we all are. How many years did it sit vacant, Mayor?
2009.
15.
2009, right, so, yeah.
So 15 years, so it's there for you. All right, two questions. Where will you put your overflow cars?
With the amount of cars that we have at this point, where we're planning to have, we shouldn't have any overflow. I think the lot fits about 400 cars, including customer and employee cars.
And will you continue to have the Waukegan site?
No, we're moving completely.
I read that, I just didn't know if that was potentially
Yeah,
part of your overflow.
Waukegan front lot only fits about 180, 190 cars tight, and we're currently renting 3 other lots in Waukegan, and we're moving things around all the time. It's like Tetris every day.
Great. My other question is about sales and warranties and I'll call it complaint resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have some strategies there that you wanted to share?
So our location in Waukegan is pretty good with, I mean, we have 4.5 stars, close to 5,000 Google reviews. In Peoria, it's a little bit different, so we just realized after it was brought up with BBB that we realized we're not paying for it. So if you're not a paying member of BBB, the reviews somehow get switched up. So we weren't even able to make resolutions there. So now with the new general manager that we just brought on there, we're going to be part of that. So we don't have any customer issues at this point, I mean, at all. We try to, any issue we take care of. It's not worth having negative reviews or just negative feedback.
Right, and I'm aware of BBB, but also, of course, these days, everybody goes to Yelp. So it sounds like your reports from 4.5 stars from Waukegan is great.
Yeah, Yelp is, it's a racket. It's they're holding about, I think about 150 of positive reviews hostage at this point. So I don't know if any big business owners ever dealt directly with Yelp. It's mostly restaurants. But, I mean, for any other business, it's very difficult to get anything out of them.
Right, and I know it's hard to have positive reviews over negative reviews. So that's what I was wondering, if you had any complaint or sales resolution strategies that you'd get out in front of it.
So we focus on Dealer Rater, we focus on Cars.com reviews, we focus on Car Guru reviews, Carfax reviews, and Google reviews. Those are the most important, relevant to the industry today, because they're verified, especially your third-party vendors like Cars.com, Carfax. So those reviews actually, to even leave a review, you're supposed to submit a lead, then you get verified there was actually you, and then you're allowed to leave it. So, and we're way above average than any of our competitors in those. So we're just gonna stay the course and try to become better.
And one other question, sorry to keep this going, but one quick question then. Do you have goals on customer satisfaction?
Yes, anything over, yes, and our managers are compensated on that as well, and our salespeople. We try to be, so, you know, there's industry benchmarks, and we belong to quite a few groups where we go and review these benchmarks. I'm actually used to be on the board of Car Gurus as well. So for Google, it's 4.0 and higher, and we're 4.5. For Carfax, it's a little bit more of a complicated process. It's 3.5 or higher, and we're 4.0. For Dealer Rater, I think we're probably 30% above average, and our goal is to be average plus 50%. So we hold our people accountable, and those are minimal expectations from anybody that works for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Ross? No? To my left, any questions or comments? There being none, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's a motion to recommend it to the full board, which will occur immediately after this hearing. So, roll call, please.
Woodside.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Garner.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Thorstensen.
Yes.
Motion carries. So this matter will be heard in a few minutes. So at this point, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So move. Second.
Motion by Greg Garner, trustee Garner, second by trustee O'Brien. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We'll start again in 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Well, I came out.
Call to order the Gurnee Village Board regular meeting of August 5, 2024. All right, please, we're going to start our meeting.
Good whistle, Tom.
I just need quiet, please, so we can get our meeting going. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Woodside.
Here.
Ross.
Here.
Garner.
Here.
O'Brien.
Present.
Balmas.
Present.
Thorstenson.
Here.
All right. I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. First item on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by trustee Balmas, second by trustee O'Brien. Roll call, please.
Woodside.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Garner.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Balmas.
Aye.
Thorstenson.
Yes.
Motion carries. Pat?
Item number 1, approval of the minutes from the July 15, 2024 meeting. Item number 2, approval of resolution 2024-04, establishing certain property of the Village of Gurnee to be surplus, Public Works Unit number 277. Item number 3, approval of Engineering Division's recommendation to award the Rudd Court Water Main Improvement Project to the low bidder, IHC Construction Companies, LLC, at a cost of $156,993. Item number 4, approval of Engineering Division's recommendation to award the O'Plain Road Sidewalk Path at Kingsway North project to the low bidder, Alliance Contractors, Inc., at a cost of $167,639. Item number 5, approval of Engineering Division's recommendation to award 3 miscellaneous drainage projects, alternate bid, to the low bidder, Campanella and Sons, at a cost of $123,721.70. Item number 6, approval of Public Works Department recommendation to award the Lee Avenue Generator Replacement Project to the low bidder, Midwest Power Industry, at a cost of $30,132.51. Item number 7, approval of request for Deputy Chief Gahn and Sergeant Bendler to attend the 2024 International Association of Chiefs of Police Conference and Exposition in Boston, Massachusetts from October 18th through the 22nd, 2024, at an estimated cost of $5,200. Item number 8, approval of request from Public Works Director Heather Galan to attend the 2025 Midwest Advanced Public Service Institute Conference in St. Joseph, Michigan from April 13th through the 16th, 2025 at a cost not to exceed $1,260. Item number 9, approval of payroll for period ending July 12, 2024 in the amount of $1,061,999.99. Item number 10, approval of payroll for period ending July 26, 2024 in the amount of $1,053,660.29. Item number 11, approval of bills for period ending August 5, 2024 in the amount of $3,127,632.48.
Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by trustee Garner, second by trustee Ross. Roll call, please.
Woodside.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Garner.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Thorstenson.
Yes.
6 aye.
Motion carries. On to petitions and communications. I'll start this with an advertisement for Gurnee Days. For those that don't know, August 10, Friday and Saturday and Sunday will be Gurnee Days, something that's been celebrated here for many, many years. I think we can track it back to Dick Welton, maybe. Is that fair to say? I'll talk to Cheryl Ross, whose dad was Mayor Gillings, who was the mayor before Mayor Welton. So in any event,
First Gurnee Days honoree.
okay, first Gurnee Days honoree. So to say also this leads into on Friday night is a testimonial dinner, and every year we honor a person within the village that is deserving of that, that has contributed to the village in some amazing ways, and Kathy Blair is the person that fits that. Some of you might know her as the Nothing But Cake Lady. That's probably more clear, right? Right? So in any event, I'm going to read the proclamation that will be read also on Friday night. And this is just in honoring her for the awesome contribution she's made to the village, as well as those great Nothing But Cakes. So, whereas for nearly 50 years, a deserving individual or couple has been selected to be honored during the annual Gurnee Days celebration, the Gurnee Days Committee has selected Kathy Blair as the 2024 Gurnee Days honoree. The Village Board wishes to recognize Kathy Blair as a resident, volunteer, educator, business owner, and community leader. Kathy Blair has served as a 7th grade science teacher at Woodland Middle School for 13 years, inspiring students and actively participating in schools, regional, and state science fairs. Whereas Kathy and her husband Troy opened Nothing But Cakes, I told you that already, right? Bakery in Gurnee in 2018, which quickly became a cherished part of the community. Provided not only delicious baked goods, but also support and partner with over 40 local nonprofits and schools. Kathy has been an active member of various organizations, including the Women's Business Association, Gurnee Exchange Club, multiple chambers of commerce, and which contribute to the growth and support of local business here in Gurnee. Whereas Kathy served on the Warren, has served and is serving on the Warren Township High School Board, demonstrating her commitment to education and the betterment of the local school system. In tradition of the Gurnee Days honoree, Kathy is a stellar example of dedication, inspiration, and commitment to the Gurnee community. The very best that Gurnee has to offer and reflection of the values of the Gurnee that we all call home. Therefore, may it be proclaimed by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Gurnee, and this is going to happen on August 9th, on Friday, will be Kathy Blair's day. So I just congratulate Kathy. I'm going to be at my niece's wedding, so I can't be there, but in any event, I pass it along to her, my personal congratulations. So in order for this to be true, the board has to have a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Ross, second by Trustee Woodside. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the administration of an oath of office for the promotion of Police Officer Marcos Gomez to Police Sergeant. Come on down. So I'll start first, just to say that the police department, we're proud of that the safety that we enjoy here in Gurnee is brought by the police department, ever aspiring to be better. Chief Smith here would attest to that, and it's been my experience, as well with former Chief of Police Woodside, who has graciously volunteered to be trustee as well. So for me, these nights are fun to do because it recognizes that we have the forever promoting within the department itself. And it's a large department for many reasons, other than our 23 million visitors that happen to like us a lot. So, Chief, why don't you go for it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mewitz, Village Board, thank you for giving us the opportunity to come before you tonight. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Brian Smith. I have the honor of being the Chief of Police here in Gurnee. And so thank you for joining us as we recognize Marcos Gomez on his promotion. And so with that, I'm going to call Marcos up, and I'm going to give a little bit of information about him, and then the mayor's going to give the oath of office. So Marcos, if you join me up front here, please. All right, so for those of you that were here at our last sergeant's promotion, I think I talked for like 25 minutes about the process. I promise that I won't do that to you again tonight. But a little bit of background here about our sergeants. We have 11 of them in Gurnee. We've promoted 2 in the last 2 years, and Marcos is our 3rd this year. And so a little bit about Marcos. Marcos joined us about 10 years ago in 2014 through our entry-level hiring process. We hired police officers in Gurnee 2 ways, entry-level, and then also through our lateral program. During his 10 years in law enforcement here serving in Gurnee, he served as a patrol officer. He is a state of Illinois certified accident reconstructionist assigned on the Lake County Major Crash Assistant Team. He's an investigator and a drone pilot on that same MCAT Special Investigations Unit. And as a police officer assigned to the Lake County Crisis Outreach and Support Team. For those of you that have heard us talk about COAST before in previous presentations, I know there's a representative here from Lake County, and Jim, thanks for being here today. COAST is a co-responder program that places a police officer with a social worker to respond to those in crisis, but also to follow up. And Marcos has done that twice for us. As a representative from the Gurnee Police Department on that team. He currently serves as a field training officer, a crisis intervention team officer, a juvenile officer, an evidence technician, and he is a licensed FAA remote pilot for our drone team. A little bit about Marcos's service back to the community. And this is something that Marcos and his family have been involved in for a number of years. And frankly, it was something they did on their own. It's a really neat project. It's a good way to get involved. But Marcos and his family, including the children, they volunteer over here at the Lake County Advocacy Center, where they plant flowers and garden and take care of the landscaping in their back area there. But in 2019, Marcos and his family were recognized by then State's Attorney Mike Nierheim for their family's year-long efforts in donating and planting landscaping in the Healing Garden at the Lake County Child Advocacy Center. In addition to that, in 2021, Marcos was selected as Lake County Major Crash Assistant Team Investigator of the Year. He's also been the recipient of numerous police department awards, including awards from the Alliance Against Intoxicated Motorists. And he and his family are yearly attendees to our Shop with a Cop program that we do in December. Marcos holds a bachelor's and a master's degree in criminal justice. His wife Stacy is here with us tonight, as well as his family. They've been married for almost 20 years, so congratulations. And they have 4 children. So with that, that's a little bit about Marcos. And I'm going to turn it over to the mayor for his oath of office, and then we'll turn it over to him to say a few words.
Thanks, Chief. So I'll do the oath of office, but we always do when you're hired, we say thank you to Marcos's family. We know the sacrifice that you make in letting us have Marcos. So you let us have him for a while already, so it's kind of hard to pull back now, right? We've got him, and we appreciate that you've given him to us, but at the end of the day, it's a big sacrifice, and we realize that. So Marcos, if you'd like to raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Marcos Gomez,
Having been appointed to the position of office of sergeant
to the position of office of sergeant
in the village of Gurnee,
in the village of Gurnee,
in the county of Lake,
county of Lake,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I'll support the Constitution
I'll support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Illinois,
and of the state of Illinois,
and I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of office of
the duties of office of
sergeant,
sergeant
and according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. It's okay if mom pokes you, right?
Brought me into this world, so you can take me out.
Sorry, everybody does this. This is a test of patience.
I don't want to,
Don't hurt yourself.
okay.
There you go. Good job.
Okay.
There you go. Thank you.
First of all, thank you very much for everybody coming tonight and watching me get promoted. I have been with the Village of Gurnee for 10 years, and when I was first hired here, it was a big career change for me, and it has been, quite a journey. I've met a number of friends, colleagues, and, other people that I've known over the years that have helped make this journey very memorable. And the sacrifice that my family has made for me to go ahead and do this job to the best of my ability, I cannot thank them enough. And it seemed fitting that my mother is here tonight so she can go ahead and pin this badge on me. My mother and my father both immigrated here from Mexico back in 1965. They've been here for a long time. And I'm first generation born here, and that makes it even more impactful that I can serve my community, that I can go ahead and give back, and that has always been something that she has raised in me and instilled in me, and obviously I'm passing that along to my children. We love to volunteer, we like to help out the Advocacy Center, and we like to go ahead and give back as well, and that is something that I always remember when I'm doing this job, when I'm helping out citizens, when I'm being able to go ahead and do this job to the best of my ability, and now the gears are going to go ahead and change where I can go ahead and lead a team of people that are still eager to do this job, people that still want to go ahead and help their community and want to go ahead and give back by taking on this profession and taking on the challenges that it can present, but also relishing in the rewards that it can also present as well. And I also appreciate everyone that couldn't be here, friends and family and people that have helped make me who I am today. They are also not forgotten, and I also treasure everything that they've done for me in my life. And again, I'm going to go ahead and pay that forward in this job and do the job that I can to the best of my ability, for as long as I can. So thank you very much.
On to the next items. It's no reports, no old business, on to new business. Item number 1, approval of ordinance 2024.
54.
Granting special use permits and a variation pursuant to the Gurnee zoning ordinance for a used auto dealership on property located at 6460 Gurnee Mills Circle West. Pat?
Sure. So this relates somewhat to our public hearing that we had earlier. So as Ellen Dean shared with us, Elite Motors, doing business as Carwise, is under contract to purchase the former Saturn dealership on a Gurnee Mills Circle West, which has been vacant since 2009. Looking to relocate their dealership from Waukegan here under its Carwise brand. The proposed use complies with all the standards required for dealerships and outdoor storage. Modifications that they're going to conduct out there include building rehab, parking lot repair, landscape improvements, new signage and lighting. So there's 2 special use requests and 1 variance related to this. One of the special use requests is for a dealership with outdoor inventory and display. That's needed because the prior special use permit for the site expired. Second special use permit relates to interior lighting levels. The petitioner is looking to exceed the 15-foot candles during operating hours. That's in our code. Proposal calls for a maximum of 49.7-foot candles during operating hours, mainly display areas along Gurnee Mills Circle West. And then the variance is related to security lighting levels, which will exceed 6-foot candles. So the site will have a maximum of 14.9-foot candles during closing hours, mainly around the entrance canopy. So obviously with 300 to 400 cars on the lot with an average price of $30,000, there's a lot of money sitting out there, so they want to make sure there's proper lighting as it relates to security. So I had a memo from our planning administrator, Autry, on this. She did have a chart on the back that showed some other lighting levels of dealerships in town. So while these require a special use permit and a variance, they're not out of line with what other dealerships in town currently have. This one is backed by the mills, so it won't be bothering any residences or anything like that. So there was previous special use permits and variances approved by the board for Anthony and Rorman that exceed what Carwise is looking for. So the request was before the Planning and Zoning Board. They're forwarding a favorable 7-0 recommendation on them.
Any questions to my left or comments? Any questions to my right? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by trustee Thorstensen, second by trustee O'Brien. Roll call, please.
Woodside. Aye. Ross.
Aye.
Garner.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Thorstenson.
Yes.
6 ayes.
Motion carries. On to item number 2, approval of ordinance 2024,
55.
approving a sales tax rebate agreement between the Village of Gurnee and Elite Motors, Inc., an Illinois corporation doing business as Carwise. Pat?
Sure. So this was the topic of our public hearing. I'll just run through it quick again. Again, looking to relocate from Waukegan, approach the village for some assistance, looking to invest between $1.3 and $1.6 million in the building in addition to purchasing it. So the agreement that's before you is similar to other agreements we've approved in the past. They will open for business no later than June 30th, 2025, commit to a 10-year vehicle dealership at this site. The village agrees to rebate annually 50% of the state shared sales tax, 50% of the home rule sales tax. We keep our other 50% of the home rule for capital improvement. Maximum rebate of $1 million or 5 years, whichever comes first. Rebate begins May 1 following the opening of the dealership. They do have the option to delay that up to 1 year to get the dealership established. So again, the site's been vacant since 2009. It's almost turnkey. Ready to move in. There are some improvements that need to be made, but in the overall grand scheme of things, again, actually small rebate agreement compared to what we've performed in the past with some other entities in town.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion.
Motion by trustee Garner, second by trustee Thorstenson. Roll call, please.
Woodside.
Aye.
Ross. Garner.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Thorstenson.
Yes.
6 ayes.
Motion carries. On to item number 3, approval of ordinance 2024,
56.
authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental agreement regarding loans for Lakecom transition and startup expenses. Pat?
Sure. So I had a memo from me on this. We've talked about this a couple times in the past. So the village has joined Lakecom. The board had its first full meeting last week, got some executive committee positions filled. So it's moving. The facility down at the county continues to move along nicely, projected to be open in the middle of next year. In the interim, to get an executive director hired, other staff members hired, contracts in place before the entity starts dispatching for communities, they need funding. So there's startup costs involved with that. So you'll recall in the Northeast Lake County Consolidated ETSB budget, we included $1 million expense in there. That was anticipated to be this loan. So as we were discussing startup funding, 3 entities stepped up and said that they would have the ability to provide some startup funding in the form of a loan. That's the Village of Gurnee through the NLCC ETSB, the Village of Vernon Hills, and then Lake County. Agreement was drafted that outlines the terms of it. The sequencing of the lenders would be Vernon Hills, then Gurnee, then Vernon Hills and Gurnee, and then Lake County, and then Lake County. Each community pledging $1 million for each one of those. So it'd be a total $2 million pledge from each if that funding is needed. It's interest-free. Again, maximum $2 million per lender. It's an 8-year payback, so the loans will be paid back starting in 2027. There's a prepayment option if cash flow allows to start paying sooner. And then they'll be regularly reporting out of Lakecom as far as how those funds are spent. So it's important to note, this isn't operating revenue, this isn't sales tax, this isn't food and beverage tax, it's not hotel motel tax. This is funding that the Northeast Lake County Consolidated ETSB, which is a separate entity from the Village of Gurnee, has saved up over the years. It's 911 surcharge revenue is what it is. So the ETSB would transfer that to the village would then transfer that to Lakecom. When it comes time to payback, the ETSB won't exist anymore because we'll have joined the Lake County ETSB, the bigger ETSB that's being formed, the new Lakecom ETSB, I should say. So that money would come back to the Village of Gurnee. So right now we're using it as a pass-through to Lakecom. It's been before our county committee. It'll be before Vernon Hills here shortly, and then back before the county full board. So we're first up. But as far as the sequencing of providing money, Vernon Hills would be first up the bat. It could be that, only $2 or $3, $4 million is needed and then it's done. Could be the whole 6. We'll just have to see how it progresses. But again, to get this agency up and running, they need some seed money, some startup money here in the interim before they actually start dispatching, which is anticipated again, middle of next year.
Any questions or comments to my left?
Just a comment, not a question, but thank you to the leadership of all the village staff that have led the way in this. I mean, this is a pretty big deal. And, you know, if I start to thank people, I know I'm going to forget somebody, but, you know, thanks to Chief Smith and to Pat and to Brian Gosnell for all the work that you've done, and particularly to Chief Kavanaugh, who I don't think is here, but I remember back in the day, years ago, when this first started, and it seemed like an unlikely idea that was ever going to come to fruition. And here we are after years of hard work, and this particular motion is to provide that last bit of funding. And I recognize that Gurnee is leading the way with Vernon Hills and joining the county in that last step. So this is the kind of leadership and collaboration to solve a countywide problem that is inspiring, and I'm honored to be able to vote on this tonight.
All right, I'm holding that, Trustee Garner, I'm holding your motion. Is there, to my right, is there comments or questions? A second from, okay. So Trustee Garner, there's first, and Trustee Thorstensen, do you have a comment or discussion?
Second.
Oh, second, okay. Roll call, please.
Woodside.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Garner.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Balmas.
Aye.
Thorstensen.
Yes.
6 ayes.
Motion carries. So I would add to, I would certainly agree with what Trustee Woodside said, and I believe that Chair Hart is present here in the room. So, oh, down front, hey. So just really to say that Lake County has provided us the ability to be able to do this because they've fronted $40 million, is that right? And it wouldn't have been possible without that start from Lake County. And what ends up happening, and I also see Carissa Caspon there as well. And without that starting, and for us what's important is it's the length of time it takes for a 911 call and the transfers that occur currently from jurisdiction to jurisdiction that we're trying to solve. And this solves that. So whether it cuts off 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 30 seconds, it means lives are saved. So it's a very, very important thing, and it's worth every nickel that's spent on it. So I do appreciate what the county has done, and certainly Pat's led the way as well in this. So it's an honor to be a part of the process. We take roll call. Pretty done, right? So on to the next item, right? Yep. On to item 4, approval of resolution 2024-05, requesting the Bureau of Indian Affairs prepare an environmental impact statement and impose appropriate stormwater regulation as part of the consideration of the land into trust application submitted by the Menominee Indian Tribe of Wisconsin. Pat, I can't say that we ever did this before, but Brian?
Yes, as set forth in the board memo, a larger development is proposed within the headwaters of the Des Plaines River up in Wisconsin. Because the proposed development is a casino, the property has to go through a process administered by the Bureau of Indian Affairs to actually transfer the property to the United States. Once that transfer occurs, wetland and stormwater regulations will not be enforceable then by the state and local authorities because it's going to be lands of the United States held in trust for the Menominee tribe. So as a result, tonight's resolution is simply requesting that the Bureau of Indian Affairs review and enforce those regulations as to this particular property with regards to wetland and stormwater. This is a very important issue to the village. As everyone knows, the Des Plaines River has flooded very frequently, causing damage within the village. Most recently, there was a significant flood in 2017, but there was one in 2000, 1993, 86, 79, and they're very disruptive. And so it is very important that when there's upstream developments, the village and, well, quite frankly, all of the communities in Illinois will want to make sure that they're following the same regulations that we impose on our own properties and villages. There was the Foxconn development that actually involved the county presenting a similar resolution because that process also included a federal element, and so that's what's before the board tonight.
So is there any questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion by Trustee Balmas, second by Trustee O'Brien. All in favor, right? Roll call, please.
Woodside.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Garner.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Balmas.
Aye.
Thorstenson.
Yes.
6 aye.
Motion carries, or resolution carries. Item number 5, approval of Public Works Department recommendation to award the outdoor material bin replacement project to low bidder J.J. Henderson at a cost of $811,500. Pat?
Sure. So you remember this was included in the budget last year, the year before. The prices came in higher than what we had in, so the project was shelved. So just kind of to go back a little bit, so the outdoor material storage bins up at Public Works were built in the 70s. Concrete divider walls, wood trusses, sheet metal roof. Obviously, due to the age of the structure and then just how operations have changed over the past 50 years, they're no longer meeting the needs of the Public Works Department. So also have structural issues up there. So it's reached the end of its life and is probably past that by a ways. Again, had funding in the budget last year. Bids were too high. Went back to the drawing board. Included funding in this year's budget that was included in the approved budget to the tune of $900,000. Public Works went out to bid. 6 bids were received, ranging from the $811,500 up to over $1 million. J.J. Henderson was a low bidder. Obviously, a company we've worked with over the years many times, located here in town, confident in their ability to complete the project. So it is before the village board for consideration.
Any questions or comments?
To approve.
Motion by trustee Ross, second by trustee Balmas. Roll call, please.
Woodside.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Garner.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Balmas.
Aye.
Thorstenson.
Yes.
6 aye.
Motion carries. On to item number 6, approval of 2024 trick-or-treating hours, Sunday, October 27th, from 2 to 5 p.m. Pat?
Mayor? Every year we do this. Police Department makes a recommendation. It's always the Sunday before, 2 to 5, during daylight hours, in the name of safety. So it's a board prerogative.
So, trustee Balmas, would you like to comment on this?
Yes, I would, as a matter of fact. Once again, there are some wonderful rules that the police department has always provided us. So if the parents follow these wonderful rules, there's no reason that it can't be held on Halloween with a little bit of dark hours, so it's spooky and fun, which is the point of Halloween. Just my opinion.
I wasn't sure if you had an opinion, Jeannie, but I know you didn't disappoint. So at this point, is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Woodside, second by trustee Garner. Roll call, please.
Woodside.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Garner.
Aye.
O'Brien.
No.
Balmas.
No.
Thorstenson.
Yes.
2 no.
Motion carries. So on to the public comment portion of the meeting. So as we all are queuing up, I guess, let me just talk to you about a couple of things that are important to me and to the board. I just would want to address first is that, one, we appreciate the residents' concern, whether for or against the PADS project. I'm guessing that's what pretty much everybody's in line for. And it's not lost on us that this is a difficult issue, whether you're for or against it. And I can say that for each member of this board, that's the same for them. There isn't one person here that's taken this lightly. And I know that it's difficult for you, difficult for us. And we stand ready and willing to listen, but just to provide you some parameters, we have heard your statements a number of times. Now, if you have something new to say, that would be great. If you want to repeat yourself, if you could please keep it to 3 minutes, that would be also great. You have a number of people or your neighbors that are behind you that would like to say something. And I know that if you came to the Planning and Zoning Board meeting, it ended at 1:26 in the morning. So there were some people that had something to say, but they weren't willing to stay. So if you got that opportunity or were brave enough to stay until 1:26 in the morning, wait till the end or do something to let your neighbors that left, so if you have something new to say, we'd like to hear it. And of course, if some of us will say, I can't believe there's something still new to say because we've heard a lot of things, but I'm sure there is. So This is a unique situation, not just in that there's people on both sides, but there's also some voting issues that have to be taken into consideration. We're going to make available to the public what requirements for voting are going to be posted tomorrow. But just to give you a sneak peek is that the requirement is going to be that there needs to be 4 affirmative votes, 4 trustee votes that vote in favor, and there's 2 items, right? There's one that addresses the text amendment, that this needs to be a district that is allowing by right, in essence, a text amendment to allow emergency shelter. And second of all is a special use that specifically addresses pads at this particular location. So at the text amendment, there's 4 trustees that need to vote in favor. And the second one is the same thing, 4 affirmative votes. I have recused myself from voting, but the second item, I'm not allowed to vote. Just as a result of the statutes that exist in the state of Illinois, this isn't something we're making up as we go along. I am trusted counsel to my right, and he's also brought in other counsel just to make sure we get it right. We don't want to do this again. So we've carefully looked through this, and we, like I said, we'll make it available so you can read it, so you don't just have to trust what I say. But when this comes up for vote, and it should come up for vote August 19th, which is our next village board meeting, and at that particular meeting, it'll be done different than we're doing it now, because the public comment will not occur, won't really help you, right? Because it's going to occur after the vote. But what we do allow on a limited basis is that we will allow both for and against to provide testimony, or not, it's not testimony, it's a meeting. So to provide statements prior to the vote being taken, but it'll be limited to 15 minutes to each side. And certainly during the public comment, again, it's an unlimited period of time afterwards, but like I said, that's going to occur after the vote has been taken. There'll be 2 votes on this particular issue again. It's 1, the text amendment, and 2 is the special use permit. But it's a lot to take in, and again, it's a one-way shot for you guys. You talk to us, and it's very unfulfilling that we don't answer questions in reverse, but we take notes. So if you do have questions tonight, please pose them from the podium, and then we'll take them down, and we'll do our best to get back to you. Tonight won't be a back and forth. If you've been here before, you see how it goes. We do our best to listen. You'll see me trying to corral you in a bit, politely as I can, to get you to finish up if you're going long. And like I said, just to allow other people to have the opportunity to speak. Good? All right. So I've said enough. I don't want to waste any more of your time. You've listened to me, so I need to listen to you. So it's we're starting at, it's just for everybody to know, it's about 7:45, so we'll see how long it goes. So thanks. First person, Jory.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay at this distance? Yep.
Perfect.
Okay.
And if you just state your name.
Yep. Good evening. My name is Jory Stuckwish. I live on Belle Plaine Avenue, less than half a mile from the Fairbridge Inn. I'm one of the spokespeople for the community members opposed to the Fairbridge Inn property as a location for an adult low-barrier shelter. Before I start my statement, I'd like to ask everyone here tonight who is opposed to this location for a shelter, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. So I'm aware there are people here from various churches tonight in favor of a fixed-site shelter, which is very gratifying to see so many people passionate about helping the unhoused. The people here opposing this specific location for this type of shelter also care about helping the unhoused. This is just an example of a great idea, but the wrong execution, wrong location. With that in mind, I ask the board consider where each person who makes a statement tonight, where they live in relation to the shelter. Many of the PAD supporters in the room are not Gurnee residents, and many of the churches that have sent letters of support do not have congregations in Gurnee. The people who live and work near the proposed shelter are the ones who will be directly impacted. Tonight, we're asking the esteemed members of the Village Board to uphold the decision of the Planning and Zoning Board and reject PAD's request for a special use permit. The zoning ordinance approval standards for special use permits are, number 1, the establishment, maintenance, and operation of the proposed use will not endanger the public health, safety, or welfare. For anyone in the room who isn't familiar with the facts, PADS is proposing an adult-only low-barrier shelter that will house up to 90 individuals in just 27 to 30 rooms. Drug testing will not be performed. The only past felony excluded is sex offender status. The occupants will be from all across Lake County, not just serving those here in Gurnee and Waukegan. PADS will not ensure occupants with a vehicle have a valid driver's license or are safe to operate a vehicle. The building can't even accommodate a kitchen for their residents. There will only be 3 staff members overnight, only one of whom will be security. This for 90 individuals with specialized needs. And alarmingly, page 6 of PADS rezoning application states, quote, PADS does not anticipate changing the external structure of the hotel, but will renovate the interior lobby. Perhaps not everyone here tonight is familiar with the East Grand Avenue, Gurnee area. The Fairbridge property is at the entrance of a residential neighborhood that is home to 6 in-home daycares, 2 of which are 1,500 feet from the proposed shelter. My daughter attends one of them, she's 4. Spalding Elementary School, with 500 children aged 3 to 8 years, is 1 mile from the proposed shelter, and the neighborhood is filled with school bus stops. There are 3 children's parks within walking distance, and there's a senior living facility directly across the street. This type of shelter will jeopardize the safety and welfare of this vulnerable community. And regarding the local businesses, we all know it is well documented that this is an economically distressed area that needs village support to attract new businesses and revitalize this area. PADS has already been sheltering the homeless at Fairbridge through the pandemic, and in this time, the property has worsened and the crime has increased. We've previously provided the evidence of this in the 34 months following the COVID lockdown, and PADS started placing residents at Fairbridge. Reportable offenses at the Fairbridge Inn increased by 50%. And the bottom line is, whatever promises are made, PADS cannot control or enforce what their clients do when they are off the property. You've heard the personal testimonials and read them as well of the people who live and work in the area. PADS has had years to prove they're a good neighbor. And what have they done? They haven't responded to or taken accountability for any of the concerns the community has raised. PADS has been actively working on their plans to make this property a fixed-site shelter for well over a year. And they never voluntarily shared their plans with the East Gurnee community. Becky Katsinis, one of our other spokespeople, will speak on the remaining approval standards for special use permits. So in closing, I will say this. At the July 24th Planning and Zoning Board meeting, the PADS Executive Director, Alan Swilly, at 5 hours and 27 minutes into the meeting recording, stated, quote, "This may not be the right location, but you're the right people." Thank you to Mr. Swilly for finally hearing us. You're right, this is not the right location, and we are the right people. You have seen the East Gurnee community come together, passionate about revitalizing and preserving this area. We are committed to using this momentum and continuing to advocate for economic revitalization. If the board ignores the pleas of our community members now, you will lose this hope and support. Conditions in the area will continue to worsen, and we will have missed our opportunity to engage and restore this economically distressed community. Please show us that the people of East Gurnee matter and give our area a chance to thrive. Thank you.
Oh, no, we're not going to clap, right? Let me just go through that, all right? People will feel like they can't get up and talk. I get it that you like what Jory said, but at the end of the day, people don't want to get up because they're afraid they're going to get boos or claps. So I I know it's hard to do, but I'd ask that you withhold that, so sorry about that correction. Thanks. Please state your name.
Hi, good evening. My name is Erica Fishman, and I was born and raised in Waukegan, Illinois. Due to my experiences, I was asked by local Gurnee residents to come here to provide details my family and I have had living down the street from PAD's administrative building, and also a house away from their parking lot, and also across the street from Independence Center, another nonprofit in Waukegan. Sorry. I hope you take all of this into consideration because if PADS is a known bad neighbor to me, and they cannot even regulate issues that they have in their own parking lot down the street from them, how can you ensure that they will be any different for you guys? So the information provided, pardon me. Oh, come on, phone.
Just take your time, please. Don't.
No problem.
Go press.
My phone. Okay. Come on. I apologize. Okay. Okay, so the information that provided, that I wanted to provide has been collected since April 5th. We have lived down the street from PADS since 2015. We've built this house that we currently live in, and so since they've moved in 2015, there have been many issues with people loitering on the property, walking up and down the street, and the parking lot, it's jet black at night. People loiter in it. People set up camp chairs. They literally facilitate this property day and night. You can hear them, you can smell people smoking crack, and you can see drug deals happening, and they also linger across the street at Independence Center, which is also a nonprofit. And the reason I bring this up today is because the whole issue we're talking about is accountability, and the accountability that we want is for PADS. If they are going to be bringing this facility down the street from all these residents, the experiences that I'm issuing right now are current and they're relevant because I have been trying to get accountability from them for so long. When PADS first came to our neighborhood, we were promised that this parking lot was going to be fenced in. We were assured that the facility was going to take care of the property and that they were going to ensure that the residents that they brought to the community were going to be taken care of, and they were going to be given mental health crisis evaluation programs to assist them in their in their daily lives. And although I will say that has happened and they do help a lot of people, what they have done has been very destructive to my neighbor and to my neighborhood because there's no accountability. Now, the people across the street from the Independence Center, as I said, they are a nonprofit. It is a transitional housing program where they assist residents to, move forward in their lives. And not all of them are mentally capable of regulating their property, ensuring that people don't come onto their facility, and they draw people in. And unfortunately, what has happened is this big old explosion of homelessness and homeless issues and mental health instability issues, lots of issues. So let me go back in here. Okay. So at any given moment, there will be people loitering in the parking lot. They walk back and forth in groups, outside, in between, behind the apartments. As I said previously, they party, they have camping chairs, they lay passed out all the time. Just the other day, I had a gentleman masturbating with his penis outside while I'm walking to my house from my driveway and to go into my house, and this is not the first time that has happened. They expose themselves, I have been threatened, and PADS has no accountability. They say that these are not their clients. It's a dead-end street. I don't live on a very long street. The parking lot's a house away from me. PADS administrative building that processes any and every application of any client of theirs goes to this building. So they're all brought to this facility. You dial 211, they are brought to primarily come to PADS or other mental health agencies in the area. And it's kind of created just an influx of lots of people who kind of play on their own worst instincts. Let's see. PADS would like you to believe that they're not part of the equation, but as I said before, they are. Part of their community, or part of their the people that they assist, just in their fiscal year 2021 report, 20% of the people who use their services leave and do not inform them of their housing situation, which proves that 20% of the people that they do assist, they have no record of where they're leaving after they use their services. And I can assure you that we have about 20% of people, at the most 10 to 15 people, that loiter around at night, they scatter. We've called the police upwards of 40 times in the past just 6 months to a year. I did hand out a timeline of discussions with Mr. Swiley, because like I said, my last statement was about the issues with the homeless people, but today I wanted to talk to you guys about accountability, because that's the whole point of this meeting today. The accountability is that I've had meetings with Mr. Swiley since April 4th about adding a fence. It's a very small property, not very big parking lot, and it's been delayed and delayed and delayed. I've been given promises that we were going to get a parking lot. It gets jet black at night. And as I said, I've been threatened. So having a property that gets jet black at night that I can see through my bedroom window, I step up from my bed, they can see me from my room. You know, they look at me when I stand up. You know, it's very uncomfortable knowing that there's these types of people that are hiding in the darkness that I can't see. There's an upwards of 4 shopping carts, trash everywhere, branches. And through all the conversations I've had with Mr. Swiley, oh, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it on Monday. We're getting the permit for the fence. Now, I've never gotten a fence permit. Obviously, you guys understand the term length that it takes to get a permit. How long does it take to get a 6-foot variance on a fence? I've asked in April, and they said that they were just going to submit an application this past Friday. And I got that information from my own mayor's assistant just recently. So I have a feeling.
You need to wrap it up a little bit, okay?
No problem, yeah. So essentially, I just wanted to say, you know, it's about accountability. I want to ensure that the citizens of Gurnee, just as the citizens of Waukegan, are protected from the facility and what happens outside of the facility. It's not just about what the people that are being taken care of on the inside, it's also about the community. And if they can't protect the community, even in the most basest, easiest of instances, then how can they assure that people are sleeping under people's bushes off of the, you know, Fairmont Inn, right down the street from them? People are experiencing people, you know, loitering at the parking lot and the gas stations, and they feel danger because there's people having mental health issues. So I just want that to be considered so that way the residents of the community can feel safe, because me, my personal self, I've had the most egregious time getting accountability, and nobody wants to help. Not until I had to post stuff on Nextdoor and the internet and call the cops, you know, 100 times. And I just don't want you guys to have to deal with that, because your police force are great people, and they do not deserve to hold the accountability of holding pads accountable for what happens outside the facility, because that's what will happen, and then it will be hard for you guys to hold them accountable. Thank you. Bye.
All right, thank you. Please state your name.
My name is Becky Kutsinas. I do want to take a second to say thanks to each person for your heart for this issue. And thank you to each trustee and Mayor Hood for serving. The approval standard for special use permits number 2 states, quote, "The proposed special use is compatible with the general land use of adjacent properties and other properties in the immediate vicinity," end quote. At the July 24th zoning meeting, a zoning board member stated the PAD's proposal, quote, "does not meet the standards of compatibility to adjacent property," end quote, and, quote, "we have held others to this standard over the years," end quote. It seems clear that 4 out of 5 board members who voted against the special use permit considered the surrounding neighborhoods to be, quote, "other properties in the immediate vicinity." Approval standard for special use permit number 3 states, quote, "The special use in the specific location proposed is consistent with the spirit and intent of this ordinance and adopted land use policies," end quote. The village zoning ordinance states, quote, "The East Grand Gateway Overlay District is intended to provide opportunities for new development, redevelopment, or renovation of buildings in a manner that creates a, quote, gateway and sense of arrival into the village from the east and reinforces the economic viability and character of the area," end quote. A walled-off site with 6-foot-high fence does not, quote, "create a gateway and sense of arrival into the village," end quote. And since the staff there will likely not live or shop in the area and the residents would have limited finances, it's reasonable to expect that this site will do little to, quote, "reinforce the economic viability and character of the area," end quote. The 2040 Gurnee Comprehensive Plan states, quote, "Areas with smaller and more affordable commercial units that are nearby residential neighborhoods, such as the East Grand Avenue Gateway, should be targeted for new small businesses," end quote. We have had amazing feedback from the community with ideas for other uses for the Fairbridge property, including a quick service restaurant with green space, an entertainment place for kids and families to gather similar to City Museum or Art Cafe, an indoor farmer's market, a tool library, a bookstore, and cafe, a pay-to-play indoor place for children. But the people in the best position to make decisions about what could go there are Ellen Dean and her staff. Let's get economic development involved in ideas for future possible uses and hear how they think this would impact East Gurnee. On June 17th, PADS got official approval to turn the Travel Lodge on Lewis Avenue in Waukegan into a low-barrier family shelter. This shelter is 5 miles from Fairbridge. This family shelter and the proposed adult shelter at Fairbridge would be the only 2 major fixed-site shelters in all of Lake County. Our area would become the central hub for the unhoused for the entire county. Why would we choose to saturate one area with the homeless from all of Lake County and place the strain on resources that come with serving this population all on one community? We should instead cast a wide net and distribute the responsibility more evenly across Lake County to avoid overextending one area's resources. In closing, the following is a partial list of businesses who signed the petition opposing this particular shelter location: Gurnee Garden Center, MR Appliance Center, Lee's Taekwondo, Big Norms, JR Muffler, Cosmoprof, X Furniture, Advanced Auto Parts, Carfect Auto Sales, Elegancia Boutique, Gurnee Barbershop, Dollar Tree, Sherwin-Williams, Spray Tech, Drewski's Barbershop, Zytec Services, Speedway, State Career College, Gabby's Growing Tree Daycare, Gurnee Daycare, Ollie's Daycare, McClure's, McLaughlin Automotive, Sinorama, Appliances for Less, and U-Haul. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Please state your name.
Good evening, Mayor Hood. My name is Lori Isaacson. Thank you again for giving me an opportunity to speak. For those in the room that haven't heard me before, I just want to give a brief introduction. I moved to Gurnee a year ago, May, from living in West LA for 10 years. And everyone is passionate about the homeless, and I too found myself quite passionate because I was faced with an extent of homelessness that burned in my eyes to this day. And I belonged to a synagogue that helped 150 people, housing them, but also providing services to many other communities. And I volunteered extensively. I raised funds. I participated in group therapy, helping young people. I was a crisis grief counselor as well. So I come to the mic with a tremendous amount of passion for those that are unhoused and have issues in life that find themselves homeless. However, in listening to the comments made in the meetings prior to this evening in favor of a fixed site shelter, I've not heard anyone say why this property and this location is the best interest for the homeless. We can all agree that this isn't a debate about whether or not we need to house the unhoused. We do. The Fairbridge Inn, however, and this location will not serve the homeless with dignity and will endanger the safety and welfare of a vulnerable community. The money Lake County has granted to PADS to buy the Fairbridge Inn can in fact be legally relocated to a different location. And quite frankly, the $2 million that PADS is using to purchase the Fairbridge Inn, a property that was purchased by a real estate investor just 10 months ago for $1.1 million, can instead be used for a more suitable property. PADS has stated they've considered 48 other locations for fixed site shelters. Where do their efforts lie in these sites? Perhaps the staff in the village's Economic Development Office can help by identifying additional alternative sites in and around the county. After all, they should have their finger on the pulse of what is going on in neighboring towns. Our team, as you've probably heard now many times, has presented alternative options that would allow PADS to house more of the county's homeless in individual rooms rather than potentially 3 or more to a room. Here are 2 of our suggested properties. The first option, the properties 1862 through 1876 Intrepid Street, Great Lakes, are government-owned property of empty townhomes surrounded by fencing to prevent hazardous conditions from the roadway. Since it is a government-owned, we believe that the $2 million that would go to purchasing the Fairbridge Inn can instead go straight into renovation costs and services for the homeless. This property would allow for residents to have individual rooms and, quite frankly, vital, a kitchen. The properties have access to the Pace bus route, which goes to downtown Waukegan on weekdays. The bus route also goes to the nearby health clinic and Veterans Hospital, so occupants have convenient access to medical care, which again is a human need, and we should address that. Option 2, PADS has also been sheltering clients at the Gurnee Extended Stay near the Olive Garden, which is located at 5724 Northridge Drive. If we are going to convert a Gurnee hotel property to a fixed-site shelter, the extended stay is a much more suitable property because it has 101 guest rooms. PADS could house more people there, and in individual rooms, rather than, as I said, 3 or more to a room. Each room has a kitchenette. The hotel has a large laundry room. It is centrally located and it has easy access to the Pace bus route. The hotel is 1 mile from Bethel Lutheran Church, and I'm aware that this group is quite in favor of a Gurnee shelter. So this would provide their congregants to access as volunteers on a regular basis. Its total market value is $3,957,000. PADS is paying $2 million for the Fairbridge Inn, and they have budgeted $3,252,000 for renovations to the architect. So PADS may actually save taxpayer money by purchasing the extended stay and saving on renovation costs. Similar to the Fairbridge, the extended stay is in a commercially zoned district, and there's a residential area behind the extended stay. However, there is no direct connecting street, and there is no elementary school within walking distance. So if those in the room truly favor a Gurnee shelter, I would suggest that unhousing those with dignity, this would be a much better option for all. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Please state your name.
Good evening, Keith Owen, 6464 Doral Drive, Gurnee. While I'm not a man of few words, as Tom will attest to, I want to talk about a few words tonight that I've been hearing over and over in the past month. The first, unfortunately, I heard at the PZB meeting, and that word was ignorance. It was directed at some of the people from the east side because we supposedly don't understand, and I don't live on the east side, I live on the west side. But the root word ignore means to refuse to acknowledge, notice or acknowledge, and I don't think anyone here on either side of this issue doesn't know about the issue, doesn't care about the unhoused, and doesn't want to see an equitable solution. But the other definition of ignorance is lack of knowledge or information, okay? Both sides, perhaps, and the board too, maybe, lack some knowledge or at least an understanding of what the issues are. But they all have their perspective. I have not worked at a PADS church shelter or a fixed shelter, and I don't live in or, near the Fairbridge Inn. So I don't have the knowledge that comes with those experiences. So I think that both sides are right from their perspective. Trustees, however, will have to decide from a different perspective, one which takes into consideration the entire community, both the economic and health, safety, and welfare issues. All of this is within the rules and the processes that you have developed for yourselves. Another word is fear. I've been hearing a lot of that, both spoken and implied. There are two types of fear. There's fear of the unknown. For many of the residents of East Gurnee who have and will speak, that unknown is what a PADS low barrier fixed shelter might represent. The second type of fear is the fear of the known. This is what East Side residents have been experiencing on a daily basis for years. Now, would all or even some PADS residents be involved in incidents at or near a fixed shelter at the Fairbridge Inn site? I don't think so. Could some of those unhoused who agree to come to the PADS shelter be involved in incidents at or near the Fairbridge Inn shelter site? Possibly. That's the unknown that worries East Side residents. And what residents do know are borne out by the statistics. Crimegrade.org, a website that maps reported crime per 1,000 residents in neighborhoods across the country, gives Gurnee an overall rating of A-. Many neighborhoods on the west side of Gurnee grade at A+. but the neighborhoods east of Route 41 are rated D or F. There are things that the trustees and the village staff can do to lessen another feeling expressed over and over by East Side residents who have spoken here and at the PZB meeting. That feeling is pain. There's economic pain. Business owners expressing concerns not only about their businesses, but concern for their employees. Commercial property owners with vacant spaces and whose rents are likely much lower than those businesses located on the west side. And residents whose homes are most likely their largest and in some cases their only significant assets. To that point, at the PZB meeting, a local realtor spoke about home prices rising in Gurnee in general and on the east side. Now, the stats you select can support whatever narrative you want to tell. What I would like is that realtor to share stats that compare the square foot price of homes on other parts of the village versus the comparable homes on the east side. Probably a very different story would be painted by those statistics. But much more than the business and economic pain is the personal pain. Children who won't have the opportunity to have similar childhood experiences that their parents did growing up in Gurnee. Fears about simply letting children walk to the speedway, walk to Viking school, wait for a school bus, or just play outside. So what can be done? I don't presume to tell you what to do. I understand that government works differently and often slower than businesses and households. I am simply asking what can be done. Try to make some of these unknowns known. 2 committee of the whole meetings have been canceled recently since that PADS East Side issue has come up for lack of an agenda item. Who sets those agendas? Some meetings are used to review village budgeting process, and one was to hear about this great new Lake County emergency communication system. Congratulations for that long, hard work, everybody involved. Could one future meeting be devoted to answering resident questions in whatever format you choose? Could one meeting have village department heads reporting, updating you and all of us on the various issues that are facing the community along and adjacent to the East Grand Avenue corridor? I understand there are many things the village has done and is trying to do in this area. Things that you know about and things that all residents, particularly those on the east side, would be very interested in hearing more about. There it is again, an unknown. A month ago, I posed some questions in a note that I understand went to everyone on the dais. However, since I have not received any formal feedback on that note, I ask you here once again, would it be possible to hear from the Gurnee Police about crime and other incidents in the East Grand Avenue corridor and surrounding neighborhoods, the issues, causes, actions taken to date, and what more they could do if they were given additional resources? Remember, east of 41 is a D or an F. Economic development. Can we hear from Ellen Dean about what her team and not just doing in terms of loans and programs in place already, but also what has been tried and what might be possible in terms of state and federal programs? Can the village designate the East Grand Avenue corridor an economic development zone? Some people opposed to the PADS shelter have been asked what they think can be done about the Fairbridge Inn site, and we've provided you with some answers. But isn't the Economic Development Department, Ellen and her team, in a much better position to do that? Matt Trujillo, your new business community outreach and communications professional, we could ask him what has he done and what more can be done with outreach to the neighborhoods around the Fairbridge Inn and along the entire East Grand Avenue corridor. Code enforcement, looking at you, Dave. Just what are the village processes and what have been their experience along the East Grand Avenue corridor?
You can keep on going, but you got a bunch of people behind you, so.
I understand that.
If you could wrap it up, it'd be good.
Okay. And so what can they do? Public Works, what has been done and what can be done? Okay? And then one final word that's near and dear to you, Mr. Mayor, transparency. Village website, weekly e-newsletter, periodic newsletters, the mayor's standing offer to speak to people after meetings in his office at coffees and block parties, and that's much appreciated. Tom's tours and all the new video messages, those are all great. But transparency does not equal communication. Effective communication is two-way, dynamic, in real time, and ongoing, and it inevitably leads to better and more timely outcomes. The east side of Gurnee doesn't need another long-range economic development plan. It doesn't need another blue ribbon commission. It needs a task force made up of trustees, village staff, commercial property and business owners, and people from the neighborhoods. A task force empowered to work with the village staff to identify problems, propose solutions, and then act to start addressing the main pain points that have been expressed so often by so many at these meetings. The only way that we're going to know that we're being heard is if we see action. This week, this year, next year, and as for as many years as it takes to solve these problems. Many of the people here tonight are ready and willing to participate in any way that they can to help the village, which is their home, develop and implement these solutions. We are just asking for leadership. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Will you please step up and state your name?
My name is Jessica Albers. I live at 4125 Charles Avenue. I work for the Gurnee School District 56. I also work for the Gurnee Park District. My job is to keep children safe, to provide safe transportation. Last week and last month, you heard from some of my students. You also have heard from some of my students' parents. Whether they're for or against, my job doesn't change, providing safe transportation every single day. I've already witnessed the issues in the area of the Fairbridge Motel. My niece and nephew live right there. You guys just discussed Halloween, why we have to do it during daylight hours to keep the kids safe. But another big one that you also discussed earlier was Gurnee Days. You want to put a homeless shelter within a half a mile of where your entire village shows up. I didn't know if you guys thought about that part. I'm going to keep doing my job and taking my kids to school. They're all my kids. Once they get on my bus, they're my kids. They're mine by bus, theirs by birth. And I'm going to love them, and I won't treat any of them differently, whether their parents are behind me saying, yes, let's do this PADS thing, or whether they're to my left and their children are saying, please don't sleep in my yard anymore. I'm going to support them, love them, keep them safe. That's my job. It's your job to also make sure where they live and play and go to school is safe. We work hard on this side of Gurnee for what little area we have. Another location was brought up further west. I'm sure that'll raise additional eyebrows for those who live further west. I'm not against PADS. I've never been against PADS. I've been supporting them for over 20 years, or well, almost 20 years. Did the laundry when my son was in preschool for him. Donated food, which was then turned away because they weren't treating it properly. I am more than willing to help them find a fixed site shelter, just not where our babies play, not where my babies have to walk blocks to get a school bus when it's dark, blocks home, or the fact that if you live within a mile and a half of the school across the street, you don't qualify for a bus. You have to walk to and from every day. Every day. I don't know if you guys knew that. We don't provide bus transportation until you get to the corner where you want to put this hotel. Did you know that? Every single student that lives within 1.5 miles has to walk. They start sports at 6 a.m. Those kids have to ride their bike and walk when it's still dark. We need to, I'm all about helping them. I'll do research. They want to spend $7 million. Pick a piece of land. Pick a piece of land, build it fresh. There's no need to put 3 people in a one-bedroom area, sharing a shower, sharing a toilet, sharing a sink, and no actual kitchen, depending on everybody's donations for food for every single one of their meals. The other location sounds great, they have kitchenettes. But again, do you want that in Gurnee? It's a really big county. It's huge, tons of open land. Let's help them find a different place, but you can't tell them, yes, it's right here. That's it.
Thank you. Please state your name.
Steve Kalen, 997 Castlewood Court. I've been in Gurnee for 30-plus years. I built 2 homes here. My home recently now, property taxes more than doubled. You assist businesses with tax incentives. I certainly hope you're not going to assist them with a tax incentive. I'm not against them, I'm against where they're going. The school buses are directed not to drive down Waveland, between Waveland and Granville, so they don't pass them up. So things just don't make sense here, and I'm appalled that you allow people that are non-residents to speak in this. It makes no sense to me to have them talking, whether they're for it or against it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Please state your name.
Yes, my name is Emily Bow. I live at 6125 Merrifield Drive in Gurnee. We've been residents of Gurnee for about 25 years now. So for tonight, we've heard that PADS is not telling the truth about their competency and their skill set. The truth is that PADS is a reliable community partner, and this proposal has the support of many other reliable community partners, such as NCASA, A Safe Place, Catholic Charities, Community Action Partnership, the Lake County Community Foundation, Lake County Haven, Staben House, and 29 local faith communities, including many who have worked with PADS for decades to host and staff rotating overnight shelter sites. I'm one of those people that have worked and volunteered for PADS for over 10 years. I'm not law enforcement, I'm not in mental health. My husband and I are practicing attorneys, and our children have worked alongside of us at the PADS rotating shelter sites, and not once have I ever been afraid to bring my children to the PADS residence. I'm really interested I'm really wondering about how many people who are standing up and opposing this have ever set foot into a rotating shelter site. I have real life experience. I have sat down and ate with residents and guests of PADS. My children have made their beds. My children have sat with the other children at the rotating sites and helped them with their homework. They've helped my kids with their homework. These people are not any people to be afraid of. These are not fearful people. These are just people who are going through a rough time. And I would think that Gurnee, as a community of opportunity, would be open to helping them through this tough time. I'm also finding it very interesting that all the statistics are brought up about the East Side, such as, the DF crime grade, the lower housing values, when PADS isn't even there yet. Again, like I said, I'm not law enforcement, but my guess would be that the proximity to Waukegan is why the other East Side residents are experiencing those things. So I'd just like to dispel some of the fear and just close with my urge that you lead with political courage instead of fear, and that you approve the fixed site shelter in Gurnee.
Thank you. Please state your name, sir.
Good evening. My name is Luke McFadden. I serve as the pastor of Christian Neighbors Church. Our church is one community in the growing network of organizations supporting PADS. We include 29 organizations throughout Lake County. I'm here to encourage you to approve the PADS proposed shelter at 3740 Grand Avenue. In our church network, many have volunteered in the church site shelter program. Those who have served in this capacity are familiar with the way that PADS runs a shelter. What we know is that PADS Lake County can be trusted to effectively manage a shelter. Churches throughout Lake County have partnered with PADS for 30 years. These communities have provided overnight shelter in church facilities. This program has been staffed by church members and additional community volunteers. We have a long history together. What we have learned over the last 3 decades is that PADS is a trustworthy partner. Let me share one reason why. The PADS screening process works. PADS shelter sites are safe in large part because of this screening process. The shelter sites have operated smoothly and hosted 50 to 60 PADS clients each night for decades. We are confident that the same screening process that created safe environments in rotating church site shelters will be conducive to creating a safe environment at the proposed fixed site shelter. The fixed site shelter will be an asset to the community and a good neighbor to the surrounding neighborhood. As you know, homelessness is a growing problem in our area and an issue that is not going away. Personally, over the last 14 years, I've had many meetings and conversations with those who are experiencing housing insecurity in our county. Every story is unique, and all of them are heartbreaking. Alleviating the suffering of those experiencing homelessness requires coordination, lots of time, effective programming, and expertise. Homelessness is a problem that is so pervasive and so complex that we must collaborate to address it. Because of PADS' track record, our church network firmly believes that their fixed site proposal is the best next step in an effort to better serve the homeless population. For this reason, we encourage you to vote yes on this fixed site shelter proposal.
Thank you. Please state your name.
My name is Virginia Kelly. I am a Gurnee resident. Thank you for your time. Sometimes people say PADS has been running the Fairbridge Inn for the past year, but the truth is that PADS has not been running the motel. PADS has occupied at most 30% of the rooms for the first time ever in fiscal year 2024. PADS does not operate the Fairbridge as a shelter, but intermittently uses it as an overflow shelter. There's no staff supervision or services provided at the Fairbridge Inn. So the result will be vastly different if the Fairbridge Inn becomes the fixed site shelter than what they're experiencing now. People say everyone or many staying at the Fairbridge Inn are PADS clients, but the truth is that up until the fourth quarter of 2023, PADS has used the Fairbridge Inn as an overflow hotel for nightly stays, not for extended stays, not for anything like a fixed site shelter. So the things that they're experiencing in that neighborhood at the Fairbridge Inn has nothing to do with PADS. There is a lot of fear in the community of what the homeless will do if we let them get too close. The truth is, homeless people are just like us, and if we can treat them like people who have value and give them a stable and safe place to stay, we can begin to work on any other issues they may have. People say, we have heard that there are other options to close down the Fairbridge Inn. But the truth is, if you say no to PADS, you're saying yes to the status quo. The person who's running it now will continue to run it the way they're running it, and you will continue to see the things that you are seeing in your neighborhoods. You're saying yes to keeping the unsheltered homeless in our backyards and in our parks, and you're saying yes to ongoing crime generated by the unknown guests who have historically rented at the Fairbridge Inn. We can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. Change can be scary, but you can be brave and vote yes to approve the fixed shelter. It's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name, sir.
Good evening. My name is Mike Morse. I'm a member of Joy Lutheran Church, a resident of Gurnee, and I've served for the last 10-plus years as the site manager for our local church rotating homeless shelter. This evening, I would like to help dispel a couple of misconceptions that exist in our community in regards to the proposed fixed shelter site. The first one is, quote, "We have heard that there will be no programming at the proposed shelter site," unquote. The truth is that wraparound programming will be provided by PADS and its partners, including substance abuse counseling provided by NACASA, employment services provided by the Job Center, and medical and mental health services provided by an on-site nurse and therapist. Residents will participate regularly in life skills groups and build community along the way. The programming will address underlying issues of homelessness and support a safe and stable environment. This is an innovative model that would be shameful to reject. Another misconception is, quote, "We have heard that those supporting the shelter project are from distant areas and would never want such a shelter in their own neighborhoods," end quote. The truth is that PAD's shelter has been in our neighborhoods for decades. Rotating church site shelters, like the one I managed, were hosted in churches across Lake County for decades until the pandemic shut them down. PAD's clients were welcomed every single night into our places of worship to eat, fellowship, and rest. Many of us sat with PAD's clients regularly over dinner and shared our lives. We welcomed them to spend the night in our sanctuaries and our fellowship halls. This relationship did not threaten any of our safety. It enriched our lives. In closing, I would like to respectfully urge you to lead with political courage instead of fear and vote yes to approve the fixed site shelter. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Oh, sir, please state your name.
Good evening. My name is Jeremy Shank, and I am here today to express my support for the proposed PADS fixed site shelter. My family and I have lived in Gurnee, District 56 for over 8 years. My youngest child started as a first grader at Spalding School when we moved back to Illinois. We and he loved his time there in the school and in the community. He just walked over from Warren to show his support as a Spalding alum. Once again, we value how much the neighborhood deeply cares for the school and for the families they serve. They created an environment of support and compassion for the students of Spalding. I understand and empathize with the care, concern, and fear expressed by some of the community members regarding the shelter. Fear is a powerful and persuasive emotion. However, I want to share a personal experience that transformed our perspective on homelessness and the work of PADS. For several years after hearing about PADS from our Gurnee-based church, our family started volunteering at PADS. My high school-aged children and I signed up to start volunteering for the 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. shift at a church in Grays Lake. This overnight shift was solely staffed by me and my 2 high school kids. We always felt safe. We felt more than safe. Our mornings with PADS became a cherished family tradition. We would wake up in the early hours, drive 40 minutes to Grays Lake, and prepare breakfast for our guests. We greeted them as they woke up, offering a friendly face and a warm meal. We would sit down with them, share breakfast, and listen to their stories. This wasn't just about providing food. It was about starting our day with warmth and kindness. We heard about their struggles, their hopes, their dreams. And despite the difficult circumstance they faced, there was a sense of hope in their stories thanks to the work of PADS. Supporting our neighbors experiencing homelessness is a responsibility we all share. It taught my children valuable lessons about empathy, kindness, and the importance of supporting those in need. Your decision about the future of the fixed site shelter on Grand Avenue is a significant leadership moment. There is no doubt about the need for this shelter as we continue to see the rise in homelessness, nor about the improvements the proposed renovation will bring to the site, or the impact of PADS to those they are housing, or the benefits of the location being on the bus line connecting Lake County Public Services and connecting them to CLC. These are all facts. The challenge lies in overcoming fear. As you prepare to make your decision, I pray you base your decisions on facts rather than fear, and that any doubts can be replaced with hope. Your vote will not single-handedly end homelessness, but it will change the lives of those experiencing homelessness in our community. By supporting this shelter, you're making a powerful statement about the kind of community we aspire to be, one that stands together, supports one another, and faces challenges with compassion and courage. Your decision will be remembered as a moment when we chose to embrace love over fear and hope over doubt. I call on you to be courageous and vote in support of the PADS fixed site shelter. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name, sir.
Good evening. My name is Linas Tomaitis. I already spoke here a couple times, so I'm not going to repeat myself about all facts. I'm here to tell about, and I live in Gurnee since 2003. I've been a good resident. I'm paying my taxes. I raised two daughters who right now are adults. I have grandchildren from him, and they live in the west side of the Gurnee. My daughter's name is Gerda Alvarez. I have two great grandchildren, and they also are against the shelter to be putting in that place. That's I wanted to say. Besides that, I wanted to ask you if that will happen, you gonna force us to move from this area. I don't know, or really Gurnee would like to lose the residents who've been paying taxes, living, having good neighborhood, and I really do not want to raise my 5-year kids in that neighborhood if them pass move-ins in the Fairfield. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hello.
Hi.
Please state your name.
My name is Lisbeth. I live about a quarter mile from the Fairbridge and
It's Elizabeth. What's your last name?
Rivas.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so I'm against it, but I'd like to start first by the statement that the people that are for says, to our neighbors, a shared future, progress, community, compassion, inclusion, love. I don't think anybody in the East that's opposed to it can say that they don't have all those values. But one thing that PATS failed to do when they wanted to do it, they didn't include any of our neighbors, the neighbors that were going to be affected. I didn't get one knock on the door saying, hey, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're planning. So they're not being a community by including us. So everybody that's here that works for PATS, they knew firsthand way before we did. We had to find out through other people that this was happening, and that's not being playing right. That's not including the community that's going to be affected by this. So all this to say, if you guys want to build a shelter, why a low barrier shelter? What's going to happen to the overflow when 90 residents are already at capacity? We already have an issue. What's going to end up happening is that the overflow is going to be sleeping outside more than there already is. So we do have a problem, but a low barrier where they're not being drug tested. The other thing too, I know that people are sometimes that they have a bad, not everybody is a bad person. No one's saying they're bad, that they were maybe dealt a wrong hand. They're, down. But my whole thing with all this is, if they don't want to get help, NACASA is going to be there trying to help all these organizations. No person that is on there that wants to get help. If a person wants to get help, they'll get help, no matter where. But if they don't want to, it doesn't matter what programs you offer. It's like somebody told me, my mom passed away last year. Somebody would tell me, oh, you only have 90 days to grieve your mom. 90 days are over, oh, you're done. You should be okay now. That's not how it works. People that want to get help will get help. And no one's saying that PATS isn't helping, that the community, that churches are helping them. Yes, but not everybody wants to get help. Some people just want freebies. They just want to be dealt a free room. What's going to happen to the overflow? Have you guys thought of that? Is there I have not heard one person from PATS saying, if there's an overflow of residents, what are we going to do with them? Where are we going to house them? 90 rooms or 90 residents that can be slept, there is too little. That's not enough. The lady that proposed where they can house 100 and something people, that's a better option. There's a Ramada in Waukegan too, that I don't know what happened, but there's a vacant building there. If Waukegan wants it and they're for it and they have people coming that are supporting it, that's a better option where they probably have a kitchen where they can be fed. So I'm just opposed to it, and I do really want to know what's going to happen to the overflow. So somebody from PATS can say what they're thinking about when there's an overflow, so they can at least alleviate some of us if this does end up going through, which I really hope you guys, really listen to us and know that we're not against helping. We do want to learn. We want to be part of the solution, but if you guys aren't including us, how would we know? How can we give our opinion? If we were just pretty much saying, hey, we're going to do this, let's hope nobody finds out. Well, surprise, we did find out. So that's it. I'm just against it. I have 4 kids, and I'm looking out on the behalf of them, especially my 2 little ones.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms.
Good evening,
Caspon,
everyone.
please state your name.
Hi, I'm Carissa Casbin. I know you all, but for the record, I'm Lake County Board Member for District 7, which I have the great fortune of serving most of Gurnee. The idea of a fixed-site shelter project first came before me in my service on the Housing and Community Development Commission for Lake County and the Housing and Community Services Committee on the Lake County Board. I have also participated in the Homeless Point in Time count. Last month, the Lake County Board voted to allocate funding to 2 fixed-site shelters, one in Waukegan and one here. As a county-level representative, my decision was whether to use funds to create fixed-site shelters in the county. Since the fixed-site shelter model reflects evidence-based best practices for serving our unhoused community, I voted for it. My official role in the project was over. The decision to speak for the project at a Village of Gurnee meeting was more complex. In my considerations, I actively sought the views of community members, both in favor of the project and against it. I also engaged in multiple discussions with PADS and the Lake County Community Development staff. I toured the Evanston and DuPage fixed-site shelters to ensure I had a comprehensive understanding of the issue. When I or my community members had questions, Executive Director Swilley of PADS had answers. When I voiced concerns, PADS staff listened and made adjustments when necessary. These interactions built trust. I hear with empathy the voices of those who are against the project. I understand their concerns, but after all this work and research, I can confidently say that this shelter will improve the neighborhood. I have several times offered to organize a meeting for those opposed to the project with PADS and county staff. I offered to work with PADS to arrange a tour of the Evanston and DuPage shelters. Not one of the community members has taken me up on the offer. That offer still stands, by the way, to anyone who wants to come.
Carissa, you need to look at us, please.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I have spent hours on the phone answering community members' questions about the project, going back and forth with Director Swilley, only to have the same untruths these questions were based on asserted in public comment in a meeting again the very next day. I had to have back and forths with Mr. Swilley because those asking questions refused to talk to him directly. During this project, I have been threatened by those against the project with political retribution for my vote on the Lake County Board. I've been accused of harassment for replying to an email sent to me, and I was put in the position of responding as delicately as possible to an email containing deliberate mistruths about fellow community members who support this project. I have witnessed from those against the project an organized campaign of slander, threats, and misleading statements. Worst of all, they have mischaracterized our unhoused community members in a revolting and embarrassing way, unworthy of the people of this village. I hope every day that their hearts will change. I understand having questions and concerns about a project proposed in one's neighborhood. What I can understand is the unwillingness to engage respectfully with one's county representative, county staff, and PADS to calmly work through questions. Finally, as I pondered whether or not to speak to you all tonight, I landed on this. If we don't speak up for our most vulnerable community members who can't speak for themselves, who will we speak for? What do we stand for? Who are we as a community? They are the meekest among us. With this visionary, paradigm-shifting project, we have the opportunity to fundamentally change the county community's idea of unhoused people, from viewing them as wasted lives to seeing them for who they are, human beings with potential. Gurnee has a significant unhoused population. Those people experiencing homelessness are us. How could the Village of Gurnee possibly say to the City of Waukegan, I know you're willing to house our community's families, but we're not willing to take any of your unhoused people. In fact, we're not even willing to take responsibility for our own. I consider my district the heart of Lake County, not just because of its location, but because of the inherent decency of our people. Gurnee has flourished because it has been a visionary leader with heart. The village has been an unwavering, steadfast partner of the county, willing to look past its borders to take a leadership role in our county community. The county, in turn, has been there for Gurnee. I love the people of my district. I've knocked over 20,000 doors in it, so I mean it when I say I love them. I would not ever advocate for a project that would threaten their well-being. Please vote to approve the PADS fixed site shelter in the Village of Gurnee and let the village continue to be a visionary leader with heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name, sir.
Yep. Dave McClellan. I live at 1188 Boulevard View Avenue. I live in the East Gurnee corridor. I've lived there since 1976. My father lives there. My sister lives there. I live there now with my family. I've been in that community my whole life. Okay. So in 2016, there was going to be the revitalization movement on the East Side corridor. I went to the meetings. I listened to the mayor. And we had all the different farmers markets that we had out there. I went to every single one of them. I would drive by the old Handy Andy building and go, what a dump. What are they going to do with this? And they said they would be able to try to get it cleaned up through code enforcement. And look at what happened. U-Haul said, well, we don't want to get the codes. We don't want to have to pay these fines. They fixed the thing up, and it looks pretty good now. Maybe, just maybe, we might be able to do that with the Fair Bridge. Just an idea. But I keep hearing that you have this side, they're great people, nothing, no fear, nothing. They're great, they're just like us. And then you have the other side where you do have fear. And the fear is real. When you see people in your yard at 2:30 in the morning arguing, apparently drunk, but I didn't give them a breathalyzer, but they're in my yard and my neighbor's yard arguing with each other. We have to call the police. You know, you walk outside Jewel, and there's a guy hanging onto the cart corral last Saturday at 2 in the afternoon, hanging onto the cart corral, just out of it, okay? Fear. I don't want my son walking past that, and a guy go, you know what? I'm just drop over on him or do something. There is fear for a reason. How is it possible that everybody here in a blue shirt can say there's nothing to be afraid of, and then everybody here that's from that neighborhood say, I'm afraid because I'm seeing things that make me afraid. I'm a man, and I'm not afraid, but I'm afraid for my 13-year-old son. I'm afraid for my wife. I'm afraid for my 81-year-old father, okay? So we can say that there shouldn't be afraid of anything, but I see things that make me afraid, okay? So I don't want to say good, bad, you're right, I'm wrong, I'm right and you're wrong. But there is something there, and everybody just wants to glass over and say, it's not there. Well, it's there, and it hasn't been there. I've lived in that community. I can't tell you the exact time that it started, but it wasn't there before, and it's there now. And PADS is putting people up in the Fair Bridge. I believe they're probably also putting people up at the roadway inn right down the road. There is a problem in that neighborhood, and it hasn't been there my entire life. 48 years, hasn't been there since, like I said, about 5 years, 4 years, right around that time. So it is something. You can possibly do something with code enforcement. Get them to fix it up. They've been putting people there, and they haven't done anything to fix it up. PADS has been putting 30% people in there since 2020 or 2023, whatever numbers you want to go off of, but it still looks like a dump. No one's fixing it up. No one's doing anything to make it better. And just putting a wall up around it, I don't think is making it better. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Please state your name, ma'am.
I'm Lauren Fish. I am the aforementioned realtor. So I live on the east side of Gurnee. Specifically, I grew up within a half mile of this location. My parents still live there. I moved a lengthy half mile further down the road from home. So I am intimately aware of this location. Tonight, I am here to ask you to thoughtfully consider and approve the special use permit for PADS of Lake County, proposed fixed shelter. There are a lot of feelings and facts in this room, and I think it's critical we empathize with the feelings but use the facts to make the important decision. I have a lot of reasons and information that I could probably go on for a very long time about why I'm passionate and this project should go forward, but I'm going to stick to something I know pretty well, which is real estate. A common feeling that is shared, or perhaps an assumption, is that a shelter like this will make the declining conditions around the neighborhood worse and impact the market value of homes. I thought this was a fair concern, so I dove into the data and experience of other real estate agents as well to see if that assumption was supported. Currently, we know the conditions at the hotel have gotten progressively worse, so I looked first at what's happening with home sales. According to our local MLS data from 2019 to 2023, homes located in a 1 mile radius of the hotel saw a 47% increase in sales price, while Gurnee has experienced a 33% increase. To just add that extra note, We don't do a ton of per square foot price, but also I would expect that number to be vastly different. The age in the homes drastically changes when you go on the west side of Gurnee, size, amenities, all sorts of things. So that is why I don't particularly use that stat, because I expect it to be very different. This demonstrates that even with the challenges this location is currently dealing with, the residents' home values haven't been impacted negatively, which I even found surprising because I am very aware of this growing problem. Now, I can't predict or guarantee what home values will do once PADS operates this location. I can't even predict what the real estate market will probably look like at that time. But I was able to look at the nearby area surrounding the Margarita Inn in Evanston, which is a similar type of property and project. The nearby sales there are up 13% year over year compared to the greater Evanston area increasing by 6%. Now, from a non-data and observational perspective, right now the showing experience for a buyer in this Gurnee neighborhood is being impacted by the current eyesore and undermanaged hotel. Again, homes are selling, but I can't imagine it doesn't come up in conversation or discourage some buyers. With the fixed shelter plan, this would become another cared-for, landscaped building and wouldn't be a major point of conversation for a buyer in the same way the gas station isn't, and so on. In Evanston, the local realtors I spoke with have not had any issues or perceived problems by buyers and renters. I know as realtors we are hyper aware of things that become a potential issue for some buyers because in turn they become hurdles for sellers, such as power lines in your backyard or too close to train tracks. So if the Margarita Inn had already started getting a negative reputation, it would be noticed in the buyer feedback, and that has yet to come to fruition. In closing, our neighborhood is being given the opportunity to welcome a reputable organization like PADS to not only help those in need, but also help us by operating a clean, well-managed, and safe building. I appreciate your time and dedication as village trustees. I know this has been an intense process, but I hope you have the courage to make this decision utilizing the facts that have been provided. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, please state your name.
Hi, my name's Lauren Bugner, and I live at 643 Lexington Square West here in Gurnee. My husband and I have been residents of Gurnee for 14 years. I live 2 miles from the site. I attend church here in Gurnee, and I teach preschool in Gurnee. Many of you on the board are familiar faces to me, some of the police force, just as I may be to you. My daughter just finished serving our community as Little Miss Gurnee 2023. After a very active year and more than 500 hours serving this community and our village and Greater Lake County, I am inspired to continue to do my part to make the village of Gurnee a safer, more inclusive, and prosperous place for all. I'm here tonight to express my support for the proposed PADS fixed site shelter, to share accurate, factual information, and to ask for your courage and support in giving PADS the opportunity to help our community. Opponents to this project have suggested that this shelter will threaten the safety of women and children in the neighborhood. The truth is, for decades, women and children have long volunteered at shelter sites and felt perfectly safe. There was no programming, no security team, and we did not know who was showing up day to day. The control that PADS will have over who stays at the shelter, along with the increase in security, will actually make this area safer for women and children. The safety of our neighbors is of highest concern for the entire community. As it currently stands, the Fairbridge Inn is what is unsafe. It's unsafe not only for the families who live near it, but for the patrons as well. The hotel allows anyone with any background, criminal or otherwise, in possible possession of any type of substance or weapon onto the property and into the neighborhood for any length of time, so long as they can pay the nightly rate. These are all problems that will be solved by the PADS shelter. Those opposed have frequently said tonight that the Fairbridge isn't the proper location. But what is the current alternative for this hotel? How many small, new, independent, innovative businesses are clamoring to purchase this property? Opponents to this project have suggested that we should wait for a couple of years to see how the approved Waukegan fixed site shelter works. The truth is, the majority of the hotel funding runs out in 2025, at which point many of the over 500 PADS clients that are supported by hotel rooms will be back on the streets. The PADS fixed site shelter will proactively solve this problem. Why would we wait a couple of years when there is an experienced team ready and willing right now to jump in and do the work required to solve both a current and future issue? I agree with the gentleman who spoke earlier who said that there are a lot of unknowns. There will always be unknowns when change occurs. I fully believe that this proposal has the ability to do so much good for our community, but only if we allow them the opportunity. Positive change starts here, with the community coming together to ask their leaders to step up and speak on behalf of the individuals. We are being presented with an opportunity to provide increased safety to the residents and businesses near Grand and Waveland, an opportunity to show our most vulnerable citizens that they have a place in our community and that we believe that a helping hand can change lives. I realize that it takes political and personal courage to step up for change like this, but I believe in this town and our people. With your vote of approval, you can show our community, all of Lake County, and the entire country that we truly are a community of opportunity. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Please state your name, sir.
Mark Hazelton, 1601 Belle Plaine Road. And I just want to say that...
You could stand a little closer to the mic and
yeah,
can you pick it up a little bit? So there you go.
Yeah, I've lived there going on 38 years at my current residence. I've watched the neighborhood come and I've watched the neighborhood go, and it's going fast. I went down Grand Avenue today and I looked at the buildings, Lee, Taekwondo, Speedway, and I just walked down there. I should have took pictures. But I'm sure you've been, Mr. Mayor, I'm sure you've been by there 100 times. It's depressing. I work in Chicago a lot. That area on the outskirts of Grand Avenue, it's pretty close to some of the poorest areas in Chicago. I hate to say it. The garbage in the bushes, nobody cuts the grass, nobody does anything. So how are we supposed to believe that this particular situation is going to improve the neighborhood? It's not. I know it. I see my neighbors here, and there's about a dozen of them that I know. I know everybody pretty much in Gurnee in my neighborhood, and these people, as comforting the words as they've put out in the blue shirts, and I'm sure they're sincere in what they're saying, they don't have any skin in the game. I've got 38 years of skin. There's people here, my neighbors, 20 years of skin, 25, 19 years. It's easy to come over here and say, yeah, I'd like to have that PADS situation in your neighborhood. And I have nothing against these people. I have all the empathy, believe me. I've actually worked at PADS, my wife and I, years ago in Lake Villa. I can remember that. And it's a heartbreaking situation, but it's not for a neighborhood. It really isn't for a neighborhood. If the churches want to get involved, that's their choice. That's great. My kids are in their 30s. They're all gone. They've moved out. I see the parents here. They've got young ones. They've got grandkids. I don't have grandchildren. I see the traffic up and down Belle Plaine. These people cut through the neighborhoods 50, 60, 70 miles an hour, blowing through stoplights. And this is just going to add more issues to the neighborhood. The police are doing a great job. The police, I think the Gurnee, and I mentioned it to my neighbor prior to this conversation, I thought the Gurnee police are one of the best in the county. if not the best. So I've talked to them, I've thanked them for their service, and I'm thanking you all for your service. But and for courage, I'd like to ask you to have courage to stand up for the taxpayer, for people that have children in the neighborhood, because that's the future. They have on their thing. I wrote it down, but I don't need to look at their T-shirts. The future is great, but their future isn't with me. They're not my neighbors. They're progress. I don't know if you can consider that progress. I could read off the back of their T-shirts. Anybody can wear a T-shirt. Am I correct? I could wear a T-shirt, but I'm not, and I'm not reading from a piece of paper either. I'm just reading it from my heart, and I feel sorry for today's kids having to walk down the sidewalks, because it's scary. It really is scary, and I hate to say it, but even years ago, as the neighborhood changed, the high school kids referred that as ghetto Gurnee. And it's getting worse. And I really hate to see, although I feel for these people, I truly do. I've stopped and talked to some of these people on the sides of on the roads and give them $10, whatever. That's not going to save anything. This shelter is not going to save anything either. It's just going to create a lot of animosity in the neighborhood. I don't think it serves, there's I don't know what else to say. It's not a job grower. We need jobs over there on the east side. A lot of empty buildings. I really don't know what to say other than I hope you have the courage for the people that have lived in my neighborhood 20, 30, gentlemen, I didn't even, 40-some years. That's great. I thought I was the oldest fool over there, but I guess not. And I just hope you have the courage to, look out for the taxpayer. And the last time I was in front of the mayor and the council was back when Mayor Welton was here. So I don't show up at these things, and I think I should, and more. I'd like to see Gurnee improve, with the times. I hope you all of you take a ride down Grand Avenue and look at the disappointment I've seen. It was a really a nice place 38 years ago, and
You need to wrap it up, sir,
yeah.
if you could.
And
Thanks.
well, I appreciate all your time.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Could you please state your name, ma'am?
My name is Kiara Lawrence. I am a Gurnee resident, and I'm also a PADS board member. I've lived in Gurnee, between Gurnee and Waukegan for about a decade. I just want to say that it's so nice that this feels like that classroom experiment in elementary school where you get on both sides of the aisle and figure out if you wanted to wear school uniforms or not, like their class is finally paying off. So I wanted to clarify two things before I get into the meat of what I want to say. But first, again, and I said this at the last meeting, if you can't verify that someone is a PADS client, then bringing up an instance of an individual haphazardly, of a random individual, is inflammatory and can be absolutely flawed logic and false. You should be more afraid of someone who is not a PADS client because we have no way of verifying what they have or who they are. Secondly, and this is just something that's kind of been grinding my gears, is just no one on the proposing side is saying that opponents don't care about the community or don't care about homeless people. That's, again, not true. But I wanted to just make 3 brief points about why I believe that this is a missed opportunity. One, just based on the comments of so many fellow residents, because again, I am a resident of Gurnee, the real issue is that the east side of Grand Avenue has been neglected. Like, we see it, I've lived on that side, I've felt it, but the alternative to this fixed site shelter is to do nothing. And in order to revitalize the building as it currently exists today, where people are afraid to allow their kids to walk to school, to walk to the store, et cetera, is that someone has to buy it or there has to be another property for sale. Neither of those two circumstances exist. So there is no other buyer, and the suggestions that were made cannot happen because the property is not for sale. Point two is that this county, and particularly Gurnee, is suffering, and PADS has never, and when I say never, ever been more equipped and strategic and prepared to lead this change, and is ready and willing to work with the community, as Carissa said earlier, to ensure that its needs are met. As someone who was on the subcommittee to select Alan as its leader, and someone who is also a staunch leadership critic, I cannot say with more confidence that there is no better person, no better time, no better place than now under Alan's leadership. Think about it, he's been in this role for what, 7 months? 7 months, something like less than a year. And we've gotten this far, and it's never happened before with Gurnee and Waukegan. And so the comment about a task force, Alan is more than ready and willing to support and be a part of a task force, and I'm more than willing to join that task force as well, because I really do care about this community, even though I've only been here for a decade. And again, like, I understand what's been in the case in the past. I understand that what has happened around the 1800 Grand Avenue community, but there was no Alan Swilley before that. And I can see both inside and outside the changes, the partnerships, the reorganization and structure of PADS from the inside out, and how that has looked differently in just this little bit of time. And then, so that brings me to my last point, which is it is so rare, and I'm a history nerd, it is so rare that cities and towns of Gurnee size to really have an impact, a direct positive impact on people's lives, and to be on the right side of history. And just, again, who was this little girl? And I'm not little, I'm almost 30. Much of the opposing argument was based, at the last meeting, was based on fear. And when towns like Gurnee let fear win, it's reminiscent of other times in history that towns have let fear win. As someone who grew up in a town smaller than the villas of Stonebrook, that was on the wrong side of history and marginalized and segregated, and is still feeling remnants of that, as someone who lived and had to walk in areas with poor lighting and needles on the ground and really knows what crack smells like in Baltimore City, I understand what the east side of Grand Avenue feels. I truly do, but I can tell you for certain that the problem does not start nor end with the homeless shelter. I can tell you that for certain. And it comes from suggestions like a task force and being a part of this community that's gonna really make a difference, not saying, no, we cannot help. Because a question that I would even pose to this committee, this board, is what happens when Waukegan says, well, the shelter that we are supporting, we only want Waukegan residents in it. So what happens to Gurnee residents? What happens when you fall on hard times or I fall on hard times? I have nowhere to go because Waukegan's held up its end of the bargain, and it's holding up its end of the deal in fighting this issue. And so lastly, I'm a sucker for a quote, but fear is subjective and it's hard to quantify, yet it motivates and distorts and creates danger. Man's fear is fear of something, of loss of money, of status, of power, and of land. And a part of this comes from Dr. King, where he says, the soft-minded man always fears change. He feels security in the status quo, and he has almost a morbid fear of the new. And for him, the greatest pain is the pain of a new idea. And I really implore this board to really consider this new idea as something that's gonna make a difference in this community. Because the problem in East Grand Avenue does not start nor end with the shelter. And in fact, it will start to make forward momentum with this community. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Simpson, please state your name.
To be 30 again. My name is Suzanne Simpson. I'm the former Warren Township Supervisor. I also lived on the east side of Gurnee for a number of years on Waveland. And I can remember when that hotel went in and they put up all the fake palm trees and all the paraphernalia that went with it. And I can tell you from personal experience that having pads in that facility would be much better than the hotel as it currently stands. Many of you are not aware that part of the township government is we have to protect the homeless. And go through the parameters of what their needs are, and we have within so much money to meet those needs. And we have housed the homeless in Gurnee for many, many, many years without incident. And then 2019 happened, and the pandemic came down like a ball of lead on all of us. And my administrator received a phone call from PADS. All the churches had closed. They had nowhere else to house the homeless. They had no one that was stepping forward to help them with the homeless issue and where they were going to put all these people. And we have a lot of homeless people in Warren Township, of which Gurnee comprises over half of it. So in 2019, we had expanded the Township Center, our building, and it was only 6 months old, and we took in 50 homeless. And I was educated about homelessness and who the homeless actually were. Are there drug addicts? Sure there are. But the vast majority of the people that I served there for 6 weeks, people that were living and sleeping on the floor of that multi-purpose room on thin pads, and I think that's what they still do. They have a limited amount of belongings that they can take with them. And I had children running around that room and trying to play, so I brought toys from home. We had so many single mothers with children that were living hand to mouth, that literally so many people are one paycheck away from disaster. And it is PADS that catches them. The township can only do so much, but it was PADS that was there. And since that time, Warren Township has always given a grant. We enter into a contractual obligation with PADS to help take care of our homeless in Gurnee and the rest of Warren Township. Did I have a problem? Yeah, I had one problem in that 6 weeks with a young man that was a drug addict. And he got in my face because I told him he couldn't do what he wanted to do on the township property. He was expelled and escorted off the property immediately by PADS. They vet their people that come in there. They are doing their best to get these people back into housing, to have worthwhile jobs. I took a woman there with a 6-month-old baby because she had a jaw that was out to here from a bad toothache to my own dentist, because that's what we do. We try to help people. And I feel your pain up there. I know that this is not going to be an easy vote one way or the other. But I tell you from my heart, for the 26 years I served this community as their supervisor, that it is the right thing to do, because the homeless are not going anywhere. The people that fight in your front yard, I had that when I lived on Waveland. And the police came and took care of it. That's what we have police officers for. I don't know the ins and outs of your special use permit, but I was wondering if maybe conditions could be put on it. I don't know if that's possible, to maybe assuage some of the fears that the East Side has. But some of the things brought up about economic development and the downward trend of the East Side, those are private properties. Government can only do so much. People do have property rights. And I hope that you can see past the hyperbole. And if you have any questions regarding what we did or how we did it or what I encountered, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. But it was peaceful, and it made me proud that we stood forward as Warren Township to help when no one else was. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
How are
Bill,
you?
good,
How
thanks.
are you?
Please state your name.
I'm Candy Stone. I live on Belle Plaine Avenue. You know, it's a little difficult. There was a lady talking, and I said, well, you know, no one cares, because no one cares. It's not that we don't care about homeless people. We care about people seeking help and getting the help they need, just not in our community. Not in our community because for so many reasons, and I think it's so nice that everybody has on the blue shirts that says lean in, because if me, Becky, and Jory, and a few others had known about that, we'd probably have some shirts that said lean out. There are other places that can attain all these people. There's really no help set up. Dr. Vernice Wright, she'd be perfect for you guys as far as the people that you
Ma'am,
have
you need to,
that are on
ma'am,
drugs.
you need to talk to
You
me.
know what? But I'm addressing the entire room. It's
Right,
not
no,
that
no,
I'm
you're
not talking
you're
to you
not
because
gonna
you
talk
can,
to
but you
anybody
can
else
hear
here.
me.
You're going to talk to this
As-
board.
Like I said, which is really hurtful that we have to go through all of this. It's like we're up here begging for our community to be fine. You know, we don't care if you come in green shirts, yellow shirts, if they're tie-dyed. We are not emotionally involved because we are concerned about our community. We're not concerned about what goes on in Evanston, and hey, we have a good day here and there. And Pabs is right. They're not the only people renting out rooms. Catholic Charities rents out rooms everywhere. What we are all letting you know is that it's a problem in our community, and before you all got here, we didn't see much of that. We go by facts. I can sell water to a well too and come in here with a shirt that says lean out. But at the end of the day, we're concerned about our community, not what's going on in Evanston or anywhere else. And then you talk about putting 3 people per room. Exactly how does that work? Because most of the people in here hasn't been in that hotel. They don't know what it's like. Not only have I paid for people to stay in that hotel, I lived in that hotel. I paid somewhere between $1,200 and $1,400 a month because I had a $22,222 light bill from where I rented from a man who had faulty wiring on purpose so the rest of his tenants could pay the electricity. It is terrible that we have to come here and almost beg, and then where were all these people at all these other meetings? What happened to this glorious project that you had before when we first started? These people weren't here, but because at the end of it, oh, everybody needs to be paid, I get it. Everybody needs to work, I get it. But here, we're concerned about our community. And it's not that we don't care, again, we're not emotionally involved. And ma'am, if you have somebody that's threatening you, sending you letters like you say, print copies so we all can see. Or better yet, go to the police, show them what's going on so you can report it and have that situation taken care of. It's dangerous out here. I noticed Seth was here and Jess from Essence Salon Suites. Jess works in the front at the window. My husband had asked me not, because he was in the military, not to work in the window because you don't know what's going to go on at Speedway. Somebody might be shooting and you're right here in the front. Jessica, because you get buzzed in, a man slid right behind a lady. And Jess was like, couldn't get anybody in the suites to help her, and she was there by herself. I currently got 2 barbers working in there to help the ladies and aid the ladies in case something happens, because you gotta wait for the police to come there. You gotta. You know, you gotta wait for the police to come there, and these are women that are working by themselves. You all also have a thrift store on that street where there's a lot of older women. They leave the back door open so you can shop in the tents. And the lady was like, oh, well, you know, I'm all for pads. I said, what's going to happen when somebody wanders in here and hurts you guys? You're not going to be able to leave that back door open. You know, our poor police officers, they're going to need more help. It's going to come to a time when some of them are going to be like the ones in Waukegan. I had a barbershop, heard a guy say, man, I worked outside all night. Well, what do you work doing? He said, I have to do what I have to do. I said, really? He said, I worked all night, and I came up with $800 in one night. And the police officer, and this is in Waukegan, reached in my pocket and took my money, and I worked hard for it. Do you think these guys are going to sit up there and take a chance on going to cars with tent? And you know, they don't want to lose their jobs. They work hard to be police officers for years, but it's going to be so intense that you have no idea. I was on Grand Avenue. I don't know if you guys have lifted your company up with pads and all of that, but I was on Grand when all of this took place, and it's too bad that I didn't show up in Waukegan because I would make them remember what they went through from the first time you all were there. And like the man said last week when I didn't make it, oh, we're gonna have pads everywhere. I said, well, I think that's good. I just wish he wouldn't have it in our community. I wish, since you guys have so much money and your pockets are so deep, you will go elsewhere. Again, we have children. You all don't live here. Oh, pads are so good. Like I said, these people can sell water to a well. I was raised in a dope house. I know how it works. I could convince you of some good things too, but I can only stand up here and state facts. I've seen people get their hands cut open. I've seen bad things happen. And this here, there are women and children that do need a place to stay. And I'm all for the ones that are really trying. But a major percent of your people, and they do need help, and you don't have people to aid that. And that would be great. Like I said, Vernice Wright does really well in that. Renee O'Brien was here tonight, but she couldn't stay. Again, over at Essence Salon Suites, they have 4 owners, and they're working hard in this community to bring good things up because everything is empty, paper up, not looking well. I mean, come on. And back to this hotel, you're going to put 3 people in a room. I lived in a room. What are they going to do, take the TV and the dresser and do what, shove people in there? And then if you got 3 people in a room, none of them know who each other are. Nobody knows if they're going to wake up out of their sleep. You don't have people to support that. You'll pray. You don't have people to support that. You don't know what's going to happen. You got 3 strangers in the room. I have a grand girl that has to stand out at that bus stop. But luckily, she has us that are there to stand there with her. When I went out, there were people who wouldn't even answer their door. They had me on their Ring camera. Hi, may I help you? I was out in the dark, making sure that people knew about what was going on here. And like I said, what affects one of us affects all of us. It's just not going to be here east of Gurnee. It's going to reach out west, and it's going to reach out in a way you've never imagined possible. And then for all the police officers, for everybody that bus, they're going to be right back out on the streets because most of them work for the feds anyway. So it's just going to grow, and it's going to grow. I'm black, I know. I've been in beauty shops, barber shops, like I told you before. I knew these people before they became who they were. And they're just not black people. They're people of all sorts. I had a friend that got stabbed in the chest. Well, he was a client.
Ma'am, you're going to have to wrap this up and try to keep your
I'm trying to
focus
wrap
on
it up,
this.
but I want you all to know how important it is to keep this from the village of Gurnee. There are other places that you guys can build. Your pockets are deep. Build something somewhere else. And I love the ones of you who want to help people, the women, the children, because you please take it to another neighborhood. There's room everywhere. There's room for building. Just please stay out of our neighborhood. And you can look up, pray, not want to hear it. Send whoever you have to send. And whoever sent flowers and laid them on my doorstep, I appreciate it. If it was a good gesture, if it was a bad one, please don't do it again. I would appreciate it. Because from this point on, anybody that I see in my yard, anything that goes on in my yard, you're going to read about it. I can promise you that. You're going to read about it.
Ma'am,
thank you for your time, you all, and everybody be safe. Renee O'Brien left flyers up for anybody who's thinking about selling their home.
Okay. Thank you. Could you please state your name? Oh, you're going to tell me.
My name is Nari Powers. I recently graduated from Warren Township. I stay on Belle Plaine. I've stayed in the area for years. I used to stay on Granville, and I can say that growing up around, Speedway, the Fairbridge, the hotel, whatever you want to call it, that I've seen. It's been a different change, as I can say. I used to go outside. I used to play all the time. I've stated before that I have a basketball rim outside of my house, and I now don't play basketball outside of my house anymore because with the people that came on my property and have said things to me, I don't know if they're pads or not, but it has never happened to me within the amount of time that these people are being brought around. I feel like if you don't stay near the hotel, or you don't stay near where it's being placed, I feel like you shouldn't have anything to say because you just don't stay near the property of where it's being built. I just feel like that this facility and what you guys want to put, where you guys want to put pads should not be placed by where I stay. I've explained multiple times that people have came up to me, asked me for money. I've seen, different things, and I just don't want this around where I stay, and I have to come back from college and just see these things that's going on now be around where I stay. You know, if people came up here and said that people were in their backyard, people have said they've been robbed, and I just feel like if that wasn't, like, if you weren't that person that stayed near the PADS facility, you have not experienced anything that's going on around where this is being placed. I am against PADS. I am not against the homeless. I do want them to have a nice place to stay, but I just don't feel like it should be in my area because I can't even, you know, do things I used to do as a kid because of PADS being by my house or these people that I don't know being by my house. Thanks.
Thank you. Please state your name, please.
Hello, my name is Arjanae Powers. I live on 988 Belle Plaine. I do agree with the man in the gray shirt and some of the people in the blue shirts. They never experienced the PADS situation, and that's not their fault. So the whole blue shirt situation, I'll just totally ignore it. The whole police officer situation, I feel like we do not have enough officers to handle this PADS situation. So we are not the city of Chicago. So how are our officers supposed to help us when PADS come along? We don't have officers. You see how many of us is in here? You see how many officers is in here? There's not that many of them. It's many of us, not that many of them. So how are they supposed to help us? When I was little, sometimes there was an officer coming to the bus stop to check up on the kids. Now there's no officers to help come check on the kids because they're everywhere else. To come check, see, and parole, do everything else because they're doing all the other things, making sure everybody else is safe. They can't be at bus stops anymore. It's too much going on. Now, if PADS was to break into somebody's house, they had to check through walls. They had to check if somebody's in the floorboards. They probably had to check in the attics. That's how bad it is. They have to be almost like city officers. They're not prepared for that. They're suburban officers. I'm not putting down our officers. They're probably trained for that. But city officers and suburban officers are two separate things. One other thing, PADS is not located and managed properly, especially the building. Have you ever even been in a building? The building is disgusting in itself. Mold, roaches, all types of nasties. Probably other people that's been living there for years before you even bought it. I'm just saying. It's not even properly managed. As well, for PADS, all these other people here want to bring their communities together. I just want not separation. I just want them to come together. It's like you want to tear them apart. This whole PADS thing is just tearing communities apart. I want them to come together before I even leave. This whole PADS situation is just tearing the whole community apart. This whole blue shirt thing, regular community, this is not it. People want to actually help their kids before they leave. Some people are older. Some people have kids. If they have to worry about their lives, like when they have to go to sleep at night, someone break in their house, they don't know what to do, someone hovering above their bed when they sleep, and they don't know what to do. You don't know if someone's in your attic of your house, under your bed, someone's already in your house and you don't know, someone already creeping around, you never even knew in the first place, someone's been watching your kid through the window while they were asleep, which has probably even happened to my neighbors. I'm just saying. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Please state your name, sir.
Yeah, my name is Kenneth Gibson. I live on Belle Plaine, and I've been out here in this community 18 years. I truly, you know, I don't speak that much. You know, I'm a real quiet guy, but I've been here several times, and I see people just saying this, they saying that. They even brought up Dr. King. I think right now he'll roll over in his grave because the situation what we have now is, that's my granddaughter right there. And she's she's attending Viking Middle School. And I have a bum leg from the war, and I have to get up and take her to the bus stop for school and at school. There's people in the morning time last year, even before Pat, well, I guess you guys, well, I'm talking this way, I guess Pat was already trying to build it. But anyway, last year when I was taking her to school, we got people, homeless people, walking, staring up and down her. And if I wasn't with her, no telling what would have happened to this kid. You know, as far as myself, I don't agree. I think Pat should not be located in this area. Belle Plaine, now they walking up and down Belle Plaine like it's nothing, like they live there now. You know, and you know that they living in the motel that's down there because how they dress, how they smell, and they even asking me for money. You know, my daughter coming home, yelling, screaming, saying, "Dad, these some men trying to talk to me," and I don't go for that. Like I said, I'm a man of very small words. I even coach for Gurnee Feeder girls basketball program. So I've been in the system from Warren to Gurnee for about 15 years coaching. So most of all the kids know me. I even seen the police off there at my daughter's games at Warren. So basically most everybody know me. But I do oppose Paz being there because it's not safe for our community, nor is it safe for myself. Because I don't know how I'm going to react. Because you guys wasn't there. My daughter coming home screaming, saying some guys trying to talk to her and ask her for money. And you guys wasn't there. If I wasn't there, if something happened to my granddaughter. So please do not agree to this. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Please state your name, ma'am.
My name is Rachel Chenier, and I live at 3445 Granville Avenue. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Hood, Village of Gurnee Board of Trustees, my neighbors, and fellow community members. I come before you today as a concerned citizen of Gurnee, a resident of the East End living just a half a mile away from the proposed hotel shelter site at Fairbridge Inn. I stand before you not only as a neighbor, but also as a frequent visitor of Shaw Park with my 3-year-old daughter, a patron of Gurnee Garden Center, a user of the storage unit across the street at U-Haul, and the dedicated executive director of Family First Center of Lake County since 2015. I stand before you today not as fearful as the last time, but still afraid nonetheless. As I sat in the audience during the last meeting till 1 a.m., I couldn't help but imagine that other town halls in the 60s may have been just as vocal with some of the same fears being voiced. However, I am grateful that times have changed since then. And I am here now speaking not out of fear, but out of courage on behalf of all of those who may be afraid to be here, despite holding beliefs similar to mine. I urge you to consider the significant value that the proposed hotel shelter can bring to our neighborhood. This project is not just about constructing a building, it's about enriching lives, providing essential resources, and instilling hope in those who need it most. And I don't come to you from a place of not understanding the fear. I'm a single mom of an 18-year-old that I'm sending to college and of a 3-year-old girl. I live alone. By supporting this initiative, we have the opportunity to uplift our community, foster a sense of unity, and create a brighter future for all residents. Living in the cul-de-sac with the opening to Jewel Osco, I also have witnessed the changes in our neighborhood, some of which have not been positive. When I first moved to Gurnee 7 years ago, I had moved every year since 2002. That's on my credit report. So Gurnee is home to me now for so many reasons because I love this neighborhood. I understand where the concerns are coming from and the apprehensions that may arise with new developments. However, it is important to recognize that progress often requires us to step out of our comfort zones and embrace change for the greater good. The real investment that will be put into the property through its development presents a unique opportunity for growth and revitalization in our community. It is a chance for us to come together, support one another, and create a more vibrant and inclusive neighborhood for all. And although I don't want to speak too much about humanity and about all the feelings that everyone has, I do believe that everyone in this room cares about anyone who is unhoused. So I just want to say that too. As we navigate through discussions surrounding this proposal, let us not be driven by fear, but by compassion and understanding. Let us acknowledge the similarities to past challenges faced by communities and work towards a future where everyone is valued and supported. I humbly ask you, esteemed trustees, to vote in favor of this proposal and lead the way as a model of progress and compassion. Let Gurnee be a beacon of light, demonstrating unity, empathy, and resilience to our entire county. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Please state your name, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Point it up.
I'm Jason Lenzi, 3659 Grandmore. I am a 48-year resident of Gurnee, grew up here. We moved here in '76, same year Six Flags opened. I am fully in support of the pad shelter, the fixed site shelter at the Fairbridge Inn. In my mind, it's win-win. We do something good for the folks who need the help, and we clean up an eyesore. I remember when it was built. I believe it used to be advertised at $19.99 a night back in 1985. We used to laugh about it in high school. I have placed people there in my roles as a sex offender counselor and a community leader in mental health. All of the people there are not necessarily homeless, but they're people who live in different circumstances and struggle. We have no idea who lives there now. With the PAD's oversight of the building, we can expect improved community we can expect an improved visual to the community, and I think we can also expect improved safety. So again, I would urge everybody to please consider the PAD's shelter and it being a win-win. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please state your name, Jerry.
My name is Jerry Locks. Excuse me. My name is Jerry Locks, and my wife and I own a Gurnee Garden Center. And I believe I'm the only person that's just going to use 3 minutes. PADS has
Ready,
a good
go.
goal.
Here we go.
PADS has a good goal, and no one is against the homelessness. But this is the wrong spot for this facility. I've spoken before you. I've sent a letter to the board. I believe all the concerns I've expressed are valid. I truly believe if this facility goes in, it will be the end of Gurnee Garden Center. I believe I will lose enough employees and customers that I'll be forced to close. And also, while I have a state-of-the-art building, it's only state-of-the-art for a garden center. It really doesn't have another use. If I can't sell the property as an existing thriving garden center, I won't get any return on the money I've invested or the 50-plus years of hard work myself and my family have invested, and that ain't right. I want to say one more thing. I watched that building come out of the ground. It's a wooden frame structure. Jim Onan built it like he'd built a 2-story garage. It's 39 years old. It's had a minimum of maintenance, and you're going to put 90 people in there. If there's a wind event, a shear, a wind shear, a tornado, or God forbid, a fire, you have the potential for a terrible catastrophe. Again, please don't do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is Greg Hurlbut. I live on North Greenleaf Street in Gurnee. Been a resident of Gurnee since 1985. My parents moved here from Hoffman Estates, and 2007-ish, I took over ownership of the home. Basically, I wanted to stay here to raise a family because I believe that Gurnee has the interests of our children in mind and our families in mind. I volunteered at PADS It's been quite a while, but I believe it was at St. Paul's in Waukegan. Played basketball with a bunch of the kids, sat and did homework, ate food with them while we served food to them. There's a lot of great people there. There's no doubt about that. Hearing some of their stories why they've ended up the way that in the situation they're in, it definitely makes you feel for somebody who may not be as fortunate as many of us in this room. However, I believe this is a great idea. I just think it's a very poor location. No different than the apartment building that was proposed off of Tri-State Parkway. No one in this room that's opposed to the shelter is standing up here preaching to say don't help anybody. That's probably the furthest thing from the truth that could be possible. We just are saying do it better. If you're going to do the right thing, there's no reason not to do it the best possible way you can. Packing 90 people into 27 rooms 3 deep is no different than packing people onto a cattle car. Why not a bigger facility, maybe better suited for them for not only job opportunities, but also travel and things of that nature, but also to maybe give them a little dignity and have their own living area instead of packed in with many others. It's not that it needs to be a better location for just the residents, but also for the unhoused. We're thinking globally here, not just one side of the street. As we heard earlier, somebody said lead with courage. The courage to ensure our residents, businesses, and most importantly, our children's voices are heard. The people on the village board took an oath to do the best that you can for the village residents and their families. I implore you to do that. Listen to your residents and taxpayers within the radius around the site, many of whom have offered their time and help, time away from their families, no different than sitting in this room tonight. As we heard earlier, the most vulnerable people that we have are our children. They have no voice. They don't vote. They can't come up here and I have a 5-year-old, he can't come here and talk to you. There's no way. He would clam up. No different than what I'm probably getting ready to do. With no voice but our own, please speak for them. So, basically in closing, treat everybody like people. Nobody's saying not to treat the unhoused as, oh, who are they? That's not what we're here for. Let's just do it better. Doing something just to do it because it's the right thing isn't the right way to do it. Do it the best way you can because it's the right thing. Also, I want to mention that I, as well as a few others, have offered our personal time and resources to PADS to help them find a better location. But as of yet, 0 response. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name.
Hello, my name is Sage Robles. The first thing I want to do is I want to thank you all. I know this is a very difficult issue, and it reminds me of a quote that says, I'm not doing this because I want to beat someone, or because I hate someone, or because I want to blame someone. It's not because it's fun. God knows it isn't easy. I do what I do because it's right, because it's decent, and above all, it's kind. Just that, just kind. And I think the board in the last several meetings, you have exemplified that. So thank you very much. I want to remind you today of your strategic plan. You are in the middle of a 2023-2026 strategic plan. In that strategic plan, you have outlined 6 different priorities. The first one, fiscal stability. The second, well-maintained infrastructure. The third, effective communication. The fourth, a stable, well-trained workforce. The fifth, a safe community. And the sixth, lifestyle vitality. The question I want to pose is, how can PADS help you do so? How can PADS help you reach the most vulnerable people in your community? We have heard so many different testimonies, we have heard so many different stories, and PADS has laid out a huge plan, a huge packet of just planning materials for you all. I would like you, as you consider, to consider those priorities and whether or not PADS meets those priorities. In addition, I'd like to make the point that correlation is not causation, meaning that something that is connected in some way does not mean it is caused by it. Things like having scary experiences does not mean that PADS has caused those scary experiences. So that's something to be aware of. I also want to ask the question, if we are going to be vetting people as we are in PADS, are we also vetting the people who are buying or renting homes? I can tell you as a survivor that my trauma comes from people with owned or rented homes, not the homeless. I also want to leave you with this. We have heard that the PADS idea is maybe not enough. There is a story that is so important to me in the work I do. I'm an educator. I live by stories. This story, once upon a time, there was a child walking along the beach after a huge storm. That storm had brought up so many millions and millions of starfish that were laying on the beach dying. This child was taking time and one by one, picking up a starfish and sending it back into the ocean. An adult later came by. They looked at the child and said, "Why are you doing that? You're not going to help you can't make this you can't make a difference. You're not going to help everybody." The child picked up a starfish, looked at the man, threw it into the water, said, "I made a difference for that one. I helped that one." This is what I believe PADS to be doing. They are helping what they can right now. This may not be the permanent end-all be-all, but it is a good start. So let's help that one starfish. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mark, please state your name.
Hello, Mark Froseth. I am a Gurnee resident and a longtime volunteer with PADS. We have heard that PADS does not know how to manage their clients and has no formal system for doing so. The truth is that every client in every situation is nuanced and never black and white. Therefore, the following criteria is part of the framework used to engage clients and modify their behavior. Cleanliness is monitored daily through room checks. When rules are broken, there are a series of interventions. PADS holds a zero tolerance for violence. Residents will be separated and processed for discharge the next day if such an infraction happens overnight. The other issues are approached by identifying the problem and/or rule that was broken and process the incident with the client. Problem solving around the challenge allows PADS to better understand the residents' barriers to compliance while demonstrating a collaborative approach that still empowers the resident to take control of their own actions and decisions. PAD issues a warning with a designated exit date if rule breaking persists after initial conversation. PADS continues to monitor his behavior and may require supplemental engagement from the resident. If the rule is broken again, PADS clinical and shelter staff assess where the client is in their housing, employment, and participation in programming through case management. If the client is not on track for housing and is not participating in programming, the client will be asked to leave and given 24 to 48 hours to do so. If the client is on track, the client will be required to sign a service agreement committing to agreed-upon activities and interventions like check-ins or documentation of required client activities like employment or apartment searches. If the offense includes substance abuse, for example, a behavior issue because of substance use or unauthorized substances brought into the shelter, the client will be given the option to exit the shelter to homelessness or enter substance abuse treatment with the ability to return to the shelter once finished. PADS does know how to manage their clients and does have a formal system for doing so. I urge you to lead with political courage instead of fear and vote yes to this fixed-site shelter. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name.
Hi,
Rose.
my name's Rose Froseth. I'm a Gurnee resident and a longtime volunteer for PADS. We've heard that PADS does not screen clients before admitting them to shelter. The truth is that all potential clients are screened at the PADS Processing Center in Waukegan using the same criteria that has kept volunteers and children safe for 30 years. This process includes sex offender check and live warrant checks, proof of Lake County residency, assessment for shelter readiness and appropriateness. PADS conducts background checks to understand the full profile of a neighbor. Sometimes the background check can influence a client's access to shelter. When background checks are not used as one of the sole indicators for shelter, PADS demonstrates inclusivity and equality. It is a best practice of ensuring neighbors are not penalized for their past. Lastly, there is little evidence to suggest that conducting background checks significantly increases safety within homeless shelters. Many shelters operate safely and effectively without this practice, relying instead on robust management practices, clear behavioral guidelines, and supportive services to maintain a safe environment. The focus on creating a supportive and structured environment can be just as effective, if not more so, than screening individuals based on their backgrounds. We've also heard that neighbors are struggling with the homeless population wandering their neighborhood. The truth is, the homeless wander because they are unsheltered and have nowhere to be. And now we may reject an obvious solution to this problem. I have two more things to add, and one is two questions. I know you can't answer the questions tonight, but I just want to direct these questions to you. I ask you to publicly state at the next board meeting prior to the vote on this if the village plans to purchase the Fairbridge Inn or follow through with any of the other options that have been recommended by those who are opposed. My second question is, do you know of any other individuals or organizations that plan to put money into this property? And in closing, I just want to say on the 60th anniversary of the signing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, we are reminded that real social change requires political courage in the face of fear. This group of Gurnee trustees has the opportunity to send a powerful message to the entire county. We can either continue to exist in isolation and ignore the changing environment around us, or we can recognize that this is our shared county and we together are the architects of our future. Leadership is difficult, but your decision has significant impact beyond the village of Gurnee. This entire process has been influenced by fear and false narratives. I urge you to lead with the courage and vote yes to approve the fixed shelter. Thank you.
Thank you. Aye. Please state your name.
Hi, my name is Michaela Schenk. I am a graduate of Warren Township High School. I attended Viking Middle School, so I have been in the Gurnee community for a long time. I have heard in these meetings a lot of fears centered around how PADS and the fixed shelter will affect the youth. And as somebody who volunteered with PADS since 6th grade, I feel like I can give a unique perspective as a young person who did volunteer with PADS and felt safe and felt like it was an experience that helped me grow as a person, and also one that helped our communities at Warren Township High School and Viking Middle School grow. So as a middle schooler, I volunteered at PADS starting in 6th grade. In my role there, I would oftentimes play with the children, help serve food, and a lot of times my volunteer work came through my school. Teams would come together and volunteer to serve food as a volunteer activity for different teams at Viking. So the community is already connected to PADS. The young children in the community are already connected to PADS. And through that experience, I really gained a lot of perspective on how stability is important in the growth of a person. And PADS, formerly without a fixed shelter, did not provide a ton of stability. Having to come in and change locations night after night does not provide the stability to a person who is homeless that is needed for that growth and development to rejoin our community in a housing situation. So I think that the fixed shelter will provide that stability. And to speak to the fears on safety, there wasn't a single time in middle school where I felt unsafe while volunteering there. I truly felt like me and my peers gained a lot of experience by chatting with the guests and the residents of PADS. I feel like we gained a lot from that experience. And then going on into high school, I did a lot of the volunteering for the late night shifts, just me and my father or me and my older brother. That shift is an 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. shift. And as a high schooler, I would do that with just me and my older brother. I was 17 and 18 during that. And I feel like from that experience as a young woman who was working there, I can say that I didn't feel unsafe in that scenario. But I think that having a fixed shelter with hired on staff could really help solve more of the issues that these community members are facing. And I think that bringing these community members, our unhoused population, into one site will be able to help our community better and further our community more. And I just want to say, I understand these fears are legitimate for your children. That is a sensitive topic. But I think that it is important to note that I was a young woman. I volunteered at PADS since 6th grade, all the way through high school. I graduated from Warren Township. The NHS, the National Honor Society at Warren Township, has a history of serving meals with PADS. The youth are already connected to this issue of the unhoused population, so why don't we look for better solutions to solve it? And I think that with that connection already being there, those fears are not as strong or as deep as they need to be. I think that a lot of those are misguided, and our youth are willing to help our unhoused population, and there is not as much to fear with PADS as has been expressed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Please state your name.
Hello, my name is Marcus Schenk, and I've attended Spalding, Prairie Trail, Viking, and I am now a freshman at Warren. I'm here to talk to you about the proposal of a PADS homeless shelter. I've lived in Gurnee for 9 years, and I've helped out with PADS for 6 years, since I was in 2nd or 3rd grade. I haven't always been face-to-face with the homeless people, but I've been there to make their beds, make them dinner, and help out any way that I can. If that's finding a room to set up for a family or anything else they need me to do. My family throughout the years have brought our community into volunteering with us, our soccer teams, our youth groups, and our friends. If you choose to accept this proposal, then you will also be bringing our community into it. A community that will grow stronger with the more support that we give the homeless shelter, the homeless people. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Please state your name, sir.
My name is Benjamin Richards. Good evening, public servants. I have a really bad habit of following some really great speakers. For 6 years, I was a program director in a Lake County nonprofit organization working with extremely at-risk youth. I was a board member of the Lake County Alliance for Human Services. I was an elected official also in these very long meetings. Thank you for your service. My 4 kids went to Woodland, and I still have 1 in Warren. I currently work in community development, and I understand the situation. Homelessness is an epidemic everywhere, including Lake County and Gurnee. We have thousands of people experiencing homelessness. 10 years ago, I attended a presentation by the University of Chicago that presented data that suburban homelessness was increasing 700%. That was 10 years ago. I hear the concerns about theft, about drugs, about stranger danger, real concerns. What I learned from my time working with hungry homeless youth, to be admitted into a program, you had to give up drugs. To be in the home, you had to get a job and be home by curfew. To be in the home, you had to work towards giving back to society. There were measurable progress required to be in the program. I had many young adults that opted not to join the transitional housing program and related efforts. They went back in the streets. Libertyville, a safe place, has a residential or multiple residential facilities in neighborhoods for decades. The special use of giving people a place to sleep sounds like that's in line with a lot of the use of the area. I had young women go through a Safe Place program, and young men and women go through PADS, and it saved their lives. These people are reintegrating into society. A new IDPH study I just saw over the weekend provides data that people in homelessness have a 20-year shorter lifespan than the average person. 20 years. I'd be happy to send you that study. I appreciate the concern with life for the 911 call issues that I heard earlier. With that, I have trust in Gurnee that it will assist in shortening this death sentence for those people that are trying to rehabilitate. I'd be happy to volunteer for a task force and move this effort forward. Our family loves Gurnee and the diversity it offers. Thank you so much for your time and consideration on this important matter.
Thank you. Hi, Candy, please state your name.
Hi, my name is Candy Reimholtz, and I'm going to start with a question, even though I know you guys can't answer it. I'm just curious if you were aware that there's real estate flyers up there by the sign-in sheet when people walk into the meeting. There's a stack of them. I just thought that was a little strange. I also wasn't planning on using my own words today. I was just going to read a letter, because God knows you guys have heard so many words from me. But I have to address a few things that have been said. All of these complaints and fears that the people have been expressing are the exact reason this is such a good idea. If this doesn't happen, nothing changes. So all of the things that people are complaining about are the exact reasons why this is the best location possible for this site to fix those problems directly. The reason for the shirts is that we can feel like a unified team here supporting each other. It's hard to be up here, and it's hard to be in this room, and it gives us comfort. It's very, very similar to what Jory has done at every single meeting, which is draw attention to the amount of supporters they have in the room. So it's nothing different. So sorry if it bothers some people in the room. I'm going to use my time here tonight to read a letter that you guys haven't heard yet, since you have heard from me. This is from the Lake County State's Attorney, Eric Reinhardt. Dear Village Trustees and Mayor Tom Hood, as the Lake County State's Attorney, I strongly encourage the Gurnee Village leadership to approve the proposed development at the PADS Fixed Site Shelter at 3740 Grand Avenue. My office has over 155 team members who are dedicated to serving the community by prosecuting crime, advocating for victims, and planning crime prevention programs. I also work with hundreds of Lake County police officers who strive to connect with every community and develop comprehensive, holistic plans to respond to the mental health and economic needs of our population. The best way to fight crime is to prevent it from happening in the first place, and the best way to help our unsheltered neighbors is to shelter them to keep them safe. By approaching the housing crisis through a collaborative approach with all of Lake County leadership, we can make some real progress in our community and address the housing crisis. The fixed shelter site has an 80% success rate of getting individuals transitioned into permanent housing. The old models do not compare to the new best practices. This fixed shelter model with wraparound services and programming is the future for sheltering our unhoused neighbors. It'll also assist our justice system in centralizing services for any unsheltered residents who need county services. In our office, we see that the lack of assistance and safety, we see what that can do to individuals. This vulnerability drives crime. If we want to have a safer community with less crime, we need to invest in social safety nets that will treat challenges proactively instead of fixing emergencies as they pop up. The current situation at that address is not safe for anyone. By uniting village and city leaders, law enforcement, the state's attorney's office, the Lake County coroner, Lake County leadership, neighbors, and our great local organizations like PADS will be able to create effective and compassionate change for those most in need. I encourage you to join other Lake County leaders and support this countywide effort. If every community does their part, we'll be able to create lasting change that makes our families and our neighbors safer. Thank you for your consideration, Eric Reinhardt. And I'd like to end that even though I am not currently a Gurnee resident, I feel like everybody in this room does have skin in the game. I wouldn't have been here till 2 o'clock in the morning at the last meeting if I didn't. I have been in this area for 42 years. I live within 3 miles of the fixed shelter site. I grew up on Dorchester and then Ellis Avenue, This is the district my kids go to school in. Everybody has a right to be up here and speak their mind. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Please state your name.
Good evening. My name is Nicholas McClellan. I'm 13 and going into 8th grade at River Trail School. Now, I'd like to bring up a couple of topics. First, this isn't going to solve the problem. 90 people in 30 rooms isn't going to solve. Sure, it could solve the homeless problem in just here, Gurnee, Waukegan, and a couple neighboring towns. We have a large county. This is not going to, it's going to put a pretty small dent into the overall homeless population of Lake County. We need a bigger facility, and it needs to affect less people. This is a quite populated neighborhood. We live in this neighborhood, so I know there's plenty of people around. This is just going to affect too many people that don't need this. We have people running down the street in the middle of the night making tons of noise for no reason on a weeknight. Like, we can't keep doing this. It needs to go in a place where there's less people being affected, and it's going to solve the problem more. This isn't going to shelter them with dignity in one-bedroom rooms with 2 or 3 strangers. It's just not going to solve the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Depke, please state your name.
Sean Depke. I've come to several of these meetings and heard people talk on and on, same thing usually. I'm going to come at a little different perspective tonight. Number one, did you not pay your electric bill? It's awful warm in here. You guys a little late on money? I'll give you 20 bucks. The residents overwhelmingly in the area don't want this project. Number two, the businesses don't want this project. The zoning board, your own zoning board, turned it down 4-1. Now, I don't know how many hints, ideas, things you got to be thrown at you, but do the right thing. They keep talking about the right thing. The right thing is here to stand up for the taxpayers who elect you and pay your salaries and pay their taxes. They don't want this, and that's what should happen. And one other note, the gentleman from PADS a couple meetings ago, and I'm using his words, said the building is dilapidated, property, and buyers, terrible conditions. That's not a quote, but. So as I asked at the last meeting, if it's so bad, why are they doing it? And again, as I said at the previous meetings, why didn't the village condemn this building years ago? I've never got an answer for that, and someday I wish somebody would answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi. Please state your name.
Good evening. My name is Liz Nelson, and I have been a voting, tax-paying resident in Gurnee for over 10 years, and I support PAD's proposal. We have heard that this is a poorly planned project and an ill-considered site. There are over 40 locations that PAD's considered. Why can't they just go to one of those other places? The truth is that PAD's used a robust list of criteria to determine the sites to pursue, and I want to share a few. The opportunity needed to add value to the area, or on a minimum note, not be a disruption. The project must ensure that it improves the community landscape. The acquisition and construction needed to stay within PAD's $10 to $14 million budget. This restricted a lot of possibilities with regard to new construction or very large renovation projects like the Ramada Inn in Waukegan. The shelter should be in or close to an identified community of need. These communities include Waukegan, Zion, Gurnee, North Chicago, and the Round Lake area. The shelter should have appropriate proximity to the PADS processing center for easy coordination of staffing and other services like transportation to the health department, Department of Motor Vehicles, and Social Security office. Hotel structures provide familiarity for PADS and are manageable since PADS has been providing shelter using hotels for the last 4 years. The property should not require complex construction, like new additions or tear downs, as it would need to be brought online quickly to meet the growing demand and seamlessly support PADS operations. The shelter should be on a through street with access to public transportation. The structure of the property should support inside egress and ingress to rooms so that entry and exit are controlled for safety. Hotel structures and their rooms are already designed to segment a population, give access to semi-private bathrooms, and allow for a level of privacy not provided in rotating churches. PADS relied on real estate subject matter experts like commercial real estate professional Jack Frigo and architect Sandy Stevenson of Stevenson Advisory Group. I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I urge you to lead with political courage instead of fear and vote yes to the proposed fixed site shelter. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name, Susan.
My name is Susan Squires. I live on Fuller Road in Gurnee. I first heard about this fixed site shelter plan a few months ago, and I was excited to support it because I've been interested for a long time in how we can come alongside people who are living in poverty in a way that's really helpful. And this proposal would provide stability and supportive community that everyone needs to thrive. Some of the neighbors who are opposed to the project have suggested that only people who live in the immediate area around the Fairbridge Inn should have something to say about this. But the truth is that in their own presentation to the Planning and Zoning Board, they had someone speak who was from the west side of Gurnee and someone speak who was from outside of Gurnee, which is totally appropriate because all of Gurnee cares what happens to this neighborhood, what happens to the Fairbridge Inn, how we serve the growing homeless population in our neighborhood. And this is an invitation for Gurnee to serve as a leader for the whole county, so people in the whole county care what decision is made here. We've heard quite a bit from neighbors who are experts on what's going on in their neighborhood right now and about things they're experiencing that sound very uncomfortable. The truth is that PADS doesn't have anything to do with that. They've described that that's been going on increasingly over the last 4 or 5 years, but PADS has not been making heavy use of the Fairbridge Inn until really very recently. In 2020, they did not use any rooms at the Fairbridge Inn. In 21 and 22, they used less than 20 rooms over the course of the entire year, in both of those years. In 23 and 24, they sometimes used more rooms, and as they used more rooms, the rate of police calls went down. It kind of an opposite effect that it suggests that PADS made the area safer. Tonight, a couple of things that I've heard specifically tonight are references, descriptions of things that are going on around 1800 Grand, the PADS office in Waukegan, which is just a completely different kind of property. That's their administrative center where people are anybody who is coming to PADS to ask for help goes there. This fixed site shelter would be a completely different operation because it'd be limited just to the people who are approved to use that property, and they would be the only ones who would have a reason to be there. There's also been a concern expressed about overflow, but nobody would be coming to this shelter just to knock on the door and ask for help, and nobody would be there unless they'd been approved to be a shelter resident there. So overflow won't be an issue in the neighborhood related to this fixed site shelter. So I hope that you will be able to vote yes to replace this hotel that everyone agrees is a problem, and that you will vote with a vision for the future of Gurnee that's hopeful and courageous. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name.
My name is Debbie Hazelton, and I live on Belle Plaine Avenue, and I've lived in that location for almost 40 years. I've lived my entire life, over 6 decades in Gurnee, as did my parents and their parents, and on my dad's side, the parents before them and the parents before them. So I feel like I have deep roots in Gurnee. I've loved this village. I've volunteered extensively. I see some people in this audience on both sides that know how much I've given to the school, park district, and everything. I also have volunteered for PADS, and I think what they're doing is great. And I think that what they're trying to do is get people back out there is fine. My issue is the 20% that don't want to be there or fail after 90 days and are escorted, like Sue Simpson said, escorted off of the property. Where do they go? Are they going to go back in my neighborhood? Because they're there now. And those are probably going to be the ones that are going to fail. Even if they get in there, they're going to want to go back out and do what they do because they're not allowed to do it at pads. So it's not so much what they're doing at pads, because it's all great stuff. I volunteered. I burned out an entire stove cooking for pads. The guy that repaired it said, "What did you do to this stove?" I said, "I would cook for pads." So I understand what they're doing, except for the people that fail the program and they're released into my neighborhood. And it's not just the homeless in Gurnee, it's the homeless in Lake County are released into my D-F neighborhood, which is going to make it even worse. The other thing is no one ever mentioned it. They want the best for these people, which they deserve the best. Well, we have an ETO problem on that side of town. And I know because about 20 years ago, I realized that all the moms that took care of kids were just starting to get cancer. I mean, Mrs. C up the road got, cervical cancer. Somebody else got breast cancer. I got kidney cancer, and it's one that's caused by ETO. I had luckily that we caught it early, and I survived. But it's still an issue, and now I've got an issue with the other kidney. And it's because of the ETO. So here we are exposing them in a neighborhood that also has an ETO issue. The other issue is there's no kitchen there. And because I worked for pads, I did the best job I could cooking the most budget friendly because I didn't take it off on my taxes. It came out of our family budget. And if you've gone to the grocery store lately, my husband just went to the grocery store tonight, and I looked at the debit card, and I went, oh my God, that's like 40% more than what we normally spend on groceries. So I did some math this morning because I'm budget-minded, and I did just a breakfast. And the breakfast consisted of 1 cup of Cheerios, a half of cup of milk. You had to have a bowls, and then if you shop in Gurnee, it's best to get paper because they really don't sell styrofoam even at Target anymore in Gurnee, but they do in Waukegan. Spoons. Juice was too expensive, so I got Sunny D at 6.75 ounces. And the other thing was an apple. Well, then I did the protein. There wasn't enough protein in it, so I added peanut butter. So I found these individual Jif single things that were reasonably priced, so I put this whole meal together. It was $218.74 or something like that for one breakfast for 90 people. That's not for 92, which would cover the 2 emergency people. Now, if you multiply that by 365 days, that's 77,700 and something. Let's say they're going to be there for 10 years. That's $750,000 just for that little, but crappy breakfast. And everybody in the community is going to have to volunteer to do this because they're not going to cook. They're not going to provide meals for these people. The volunteers have to. And I love the energy in this room because I sure hope that these people are the ones that are going to be forking out the money, because what a lot of people have been saying is everybody is one paycheck from being homeless themselves. Well, are those also the people that are going to be buying the extra food for these people? Because they have to be fed, so lunch is going to be more and dinner is going to be more. So that's my point, is I don't think that it's not fear, because half the time I come home late and I walk to my house late. It doesn't bother me. You know what? I'm old. If they want me, go ahead, get me. But, I think that we could have a better location because of the ETO, because there is no kitchen, and because where are those people being released? So when you ask those questions, or when you get to that point, where will they be released? The people that fail the program, where are they being released? Because the problem is not with the people working the program. If the program works like we're guaranteed it works, then that will be great for those people. But where are those people that are being released from the program? The 20%, that's 74 people a year. You multiply that by 10 years, that's 740 homeless people in a vicinity, which would be our neighborhood, that D-F area. So I thank you for your time. I'm tired. I'm really tired of coming to these meetings. I love you guys, but I'm tired of coming to these meetings, so I'm glad they're coming to an end. And I would appreciate you taking everything into consideration like the zoning board did. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, please state your name.
My name is Jody McClellan. I live in the Crescent Meadows subdivision, very close to the proposed shelter. I really appreciate everyone on the board for hearing all of our statements, and I appreciate all our Gurnee neighbors for speaking passionately about this proposed development. I especially appreciate our neighbors who have done additional research to find alternative locations and facilities that would much more optimally serve the increasing number of people facing homelessness. I do not think it is accurate to continually state or to even insinuate that most or all of us who are not in favor of this location for a shelter do not possess concern and empathy for the unhoused. I can speak for myself and my family. We do, in fact, very much care about and feel empathy toward people who are facing homelessness. I have also spoken to and heard countless neighbors who are not in favor of this location who feel the same. And I'd like to read from the Revitalization Strategies for East Grand Avenue report that was published in July of 2016 by the Urban Land Institute of Chicago and the Technical Assistance Panel Program. And it's stated for Site 3, which is 3732 to 3740 Grand Avenue, formerly known as the Hollywood Inn, which provides an alternative, affordable lodging option, is a viable use for the corridor, especially because of the heavy tourism traffic in Western Gurnee. The village should work with the property owner to ensure that the site and the buildings are well maintained and meet code standards. Furthermore, the conclusion states, the panel emphasizes that for revitalization plans to be effective and successful along East Grand Avenue, local residents and businesses will have to be active participants and work hand in hand with government agencies to create a realistic and unifying vision for the corridor and to implement that vision. So I'm wondering why, as it sounds like I'm in good company, I'm wondering why we're sitting here, attending all these meetings 8 years later, and have found out about this proposed plan in a very roundabout way and not in a forthcoming way, not in a transparent way from our government, rather than receiving an invitation perhaps years ago to work collaboratively to improve the neighborhood that we reside in. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name.
My name is Mateen. I will live about half a mile from that property. The lady put it eloquently what people didn't mention. PAD is a good program. It lacked all the transparency in the world that you would have expected for the residentials living in that community. Even that you find out from your neighbors, you find out from other angles, and that also after the meeting has started in Warren. I feel, with a lack of words or coming to mind, I feel shameful about that. Great programs don't begin that way. They work with communities first. Maybe in year out. Maybe a couple of years, they go into the community, build that community, solve their problems, solve their anxiety, they'll solve their fears. Buy-in creates the buy-in that is required. I didn't see that come. The next thing in line was, we find that association with PADs because of the political influence that trustees create. Don't want to delve into it. I think you know where I'm going with it. That's not the point. The point is leadership matters. Leaders are not biased. Leaders don't pick sides. East side is, you can consider from geopolitical perspective, east side is different from the west side. After all, it's village of Gurnee that you're talking about. It's the residents who chose to come and establish their homes in here. Some people have lived for 40 years, some for 10, some for 5. But they came for a purpose because they found this region to be better for themselves. I don't think so anybody cares less about homeless. That message is loud and clear from everybody. Humanity is the first thing we should look at. While looking at humanity, I think we also should look at what regions do you impact? Who do you impact? Gurnee Garden Center is just 3 feet away from that property. He mentioned his things. There are GR Mufflers is right next to him. There's so many businesses who will be impacted. Forget about them right now if I say so, because it's about me. When I chose to move into this neighborhood, I came to village of Gurnee to talk about where should I buy properties and all evaluate ourselves. I did not want to go into established neighborhood, what it feels like every house, every other house in the neighborhood is a custom-made home. And that is what West Gurnee looked like for me. They had great revitalization plans for East Gurnee. I still remember that old 41 bridge that was so cumbersome to go through, but it took more than 10 years, I guess, to recomplete. By that time, I think all East Side Gurnee plans were put on hold because the construction took away every charm that could ever be to influence any other business people out there. People talk about political courage. I fail to understand, yes, you all need courage. Why is it different from courage? For me, courage to speak, come here and stand up, is a big thing. I always fight my battles or support, whatever it is, from the back. Yes, I'll put charity dollars. I'll put all of those things. I'll go read out a maybe book to somebody. I just don't stand here and speak publicly. I feel like, you are the judges and the panels that I'm speaking up here and I'm trying to convince of something that I'm guilty of that I'm not. That's what it feels like. Why is it the residential who are immediately impacted by the deal have to come here and beg and plead again and again, show up for every other meeting?
You need to wrap it up, sir, please.
For last 2 meetings, it feels like supporters of PAD just woke up and they come here and steamroll this whole thing into showing the compassion and all those things. You think everybody else is not compassionate? Everybody else is not supporting diversity, inclusivity. They do it different ways. Apples to apples comparison is good. Apples to orange comparison is a bad thing for corporate environments too. So finally, I'll say this, and I liked it how the person on the seat on the other side put it. You may have a great plan. If it's a bad location, it is a bad location. Let's not do this. Let's not put it into residential program. I do love PADS as a program, but it's not the right location. Let's work differently to find another location where it could really improve the lives of those who are unserved, and maybe even seek Lake County government's help where we can entice businesses to support those programs, to hire them, to skill train them, and all those things. Let's not shortchange this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
What novel thing can I tell you?
Please state your name.
Sure. My name is Doug Shear. I'm a resident Gurnee, 1925 Madison Avenue, West Sider. But I've learned that I have several East Side friends. I came to this meeting, one of the meetings originally, because a friend asked us to come. And they were heartfelt in their concern.
Doug, you need to talk this way.
Okay. I forgot. They were heartfelt in their concern. And as I listened, I felt foolish. I felt like I had been living in a bubble. I realized that those people's fears were real. and I wanted to do something about it. And I didn't know what to do. But I did contact the police and the public public relations person. And we had a very good conversation. I'm hopeful that August 20th, there are going to be some, regardless of whether or not PADS is or isn't accepted.
So it's the 19th, just so we
Excuse me,
don't
no,
know.
I'm saying on the
Confusion.
20th,
Oh, okay.
the day after,
Day after, thank you.
because we have to be thinking
No
about
confusion,
that.
right.
Our hearts have to be healed from this. As believers, I know we should never do anything in darkness, and that's perhaps why some people have been upset. But at the same time, we do have to have people feeling that they can live in their community without fear. And I'm a science teacher who was first started out as a social studies. And my specialty was town meetings. My last 5 years, we held town meetings for 2 days with 60 people. And we spent a week researching and preparing solutions to a problem. And at the end of it, I felt like I was God because I manipulated the kids into actually fixing things. It was fun. The people who didn't like where the thing was going to be, if it was a thing, they would use "not in my backyard." And they had posters and signs, and they dressed appropriately. And they wore those clothes all day. As well as the other people who gave presentations worked very hard at their presentations. In fact, you would be very surprised at the 15-minute presentations that these kids would come up with for these solutions. I have to say that from a Gurnee resident that's had an accident on Grand Avenue on the east side, trying to go west, traffic is a problem. And I don't believe that PADS actually will resolve that problem. And what they want to do with the entrance will actually make it worse. But those are all things that can be fixed. And I hope that on the 20th, the day after, we can get together as a community, whether we're blue shirts or green shirts or a mixture of whatever, and actually make things better here in the town. Because that's what makes Gurnee different, okay, and special. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So at this time, the floor will close to public comment. Just a reminder that the next meeting the village board will have is August 19, 7 p.m. At that point, the village board will make a decision on those two issues, on the text amendment and also the special use for PADS. Again, reminding you that there'll be a 15-minute opportunity for those pro, if you wanted to organize accordingly, and the same with those opposed, 15 minutes prior. There'll be public comment after the vote's taken, but that won't be, not going to help you much as far as convincing people on the board as to how to vote. So just wanted to be able to make that information available to you in advance. And again, to remind you, we'll also, on our website, on our website will be the information with regard to the votes that are required for these two issues in order for them to be successful, or ultimately if they would fail if they don't have sufficient votes. So really thank you for tonight. You were great, Gurnee, so respectful to each other. I really appreciate that. And it's 10:35, not so bad. Thanks. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Motion by trustee Balmas, second by trustee O'Brien. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.